Chapter 1471. Holding the Western Sea Dragon King's head, Xiaochen descended from the sky and stomped on Ao Lang's headless body. Bang! The strong impact immediately crushed this headless body, shattering its bones. The heart of an emperor immediately shattered, and gave off a boundless scarlet spiritual light, spreading around Xiaochen like stars. Holding the blood-clad sect master's head, Xiaochen appeared stern amid this boundless scarlet light, looking like a deity. Dead. What's going on? Did anyone see clearly how Xiaochen attacked? Damn. How did this Ao Lang die after laughing? Who in the world did it? That scared me to death. His head suddenly flew off. Did I see wrongly? Damn. What exactly happened? Who saw it clearly? Tell us. The many cultivators who had already retreated far away from the city nearly went crazy. Many of them even wondered if they saw wrongly. However, the scene before them had really happened. The strong blood-clad sect master, Ao Lang, had his head in Xiaochen's hand. Like Ao Feng, Xiaochen stomped on Ao Lang's body, turning it into a pile of mud. He was deader than dead. However, everyone only saw Xiaochen sheath his saber. They did not see Xiaochen make a move. Even the outstanding talents and the experts with good eyesight did not see it. This was not the strangest thing. The strangest thing was that even the blood-clad sect master did not know how he died. The moment before his death, he clearly did not know anything at all. He even shouted at Xiaochen. It was like someone had chosen that moment with the judgment pen. When the time was up, Ao Lang would die. Strange. This simple battle was so strange that it made one's hair stand on end. No one could figure it out or understand it. However, no matter what, the result was already set in stone. Touching the reverse scale of a dragon meant death. The Blue Dragon King, Xiaochen, had remained silent for 5 years. Once again he used his actions to prove this point. Xiaochen looked at the ruins of the city and the miserable state of the blood-clad sect's tens of thousands of elite disciples. After this battle, even if Xiaochen remained silent for 100 years or even 1,000 years, he would not be able to do anything. No one would dare to recklessly attack the Dragon's Gate. The blood-clad sect's miserable state used the bloody facts to show everyone the consequences of offending the Dragon's Gate. After tossing the Western Sea Dragon King's head into the universe ring, Xiaochen felt his entire body go weak. There was a horrifying wound on his chest. Blood flowed out incessantly, and it was surrounded by black demon qi. This was what the Western Sea Dragon King Ao Lang left for Xiaochen before he died. From the outside, it seemed as if nothing had happened, but in fact the moment he traveled to the future. Xiaochen exchanged moves with the Western Sea Dragon King Ao Lang in the time it took for a spark to fly, deciding life and death in one move. Even if Xiaochen traveled to the future, the Western Sea Dragon King would not just stand there and let Xiaochen kill him. That was not realistic. That is impossible. In the future, the Western Sea Dragon King will be a fool. His greatest advantage was the element of surprise. These 4 words should not be underestimated. When Xiaochen traveled to the future, his saber strike came without any warning. It appeared right before the Western Sea Dragon King. How could it be easy to receive the peak strike of a person who had stored up power in an unexpected situation? How difficult was it? It was like an ordinary person walking on the street normally, and suddenly having a flower vase fall on their head? The second advantage was that it would be very difficult to counterattack, as Xiaochen would return to the past in the next second. There was one final advantage. Even if the Western Sea Dragon King managed to block it by luck, Xiaochen would be able to figure out how to block it. After returning to the past, Xiaochen would predict what the Western Sea Dragon King would do in advance. Then, when the Western Sea Dragon King suddenly changed his plans, he would still be flustered. This was the first time Xiaochen used the state of cycle in actual combat. While the battle appeared easy to others, Xiaochen won by luck. If not for the help of the lunar shadow saber, the state of cycle would not have been able to break free from the time and space where the Western Sea Dragon King was. Even if the Western Sea Dragon King managed to break free, the time left for him to make a move would be much shorter. Even so, there was still a wound on Xiaochen's chest. He had indeed won by luck. The state of cycle was boundlessly mysterious. However, Xiaochen had only scratched the surface of it. Perhaps it could not even be considered scratching the surface. It was too unfortunate that the cycle arts had only the first chapter. Big Brother Xiaochun. The Dragon's Gate elders who had been protected by Xiaochun rushed over and surrounded Xiaochun. Xiaochun barely managed to stop his wound. Then he smiled, and a Dragon's Gate's warship flew out of the universe ring. He said, "I said that I would bring you away. Come back with me." After saying that, Xiaochun's body swayed slightly. He was too tired. Emo-chun stepped forward and quickly supported Xiaochun. Then, the group leaped onto the Dragon's Gate's warship. There was no time to explain. They had to leave this troublesome place first. The remnant forces of the blood-clad sect had already scattered the instant the Western Sea Dragon King died. The injured upper echelons of the blood-clad sect fled even faster. The huge blood-clad sect collapsed in an instant. This made everyone sigh. Compared to the Holy Lands, these upstart sects still lacked accumulations. They could not withstand great winds and waves. After the Dragon's Gate suffered this calamity, it would definitely undergo a nirvanic rebirth. After unifying the Western Sea, the Dragon's Gate's prestige would soar, and it would become the center of the region. As for Xiaochun, he would continue the legend of the Blue Dragon King. The identity of the shadowless saber sovereign would make his experiences even more legendary. Without a doubt, the Kunlun realm's luck belonged to him. As the crowd watched the Dragon's Gate's warship leave, they felt complicated emotions welling up in their hearts. In the short span of half a day, their emotions as outsiders had experienced many ups and downs. Several times, their hearts felt like they could not take it anymore, about to jump out. The shock that the Blue Dragon King, Xiaochun, brought them was simply too incredible. They probably would not be able to digest this within half a month. Chu Yang and the other outstanding talents around the Holy Daughter, Yu Bingyun, felt indescribably bitter. Originally, they were invited by the Holy Daughter to rescue the people of the Dragon's Gate. Now that they thought about it, they were too naive. The blood-clad sect was much stronger than they thought. If they had really attacked, their fates would have been very unsightly. However, these outstanding talents were rather open-minded. Many of them were even on good terms with Xiaochun. When they saw that Xiaochun was not only fine but even stronger than before, they rejoiced. For example, the Northern Sea Alliance's young alliance chief, Yi Chun, the human demon sea's Duguao, and the myriad fiend island's Di Xinhan. What a fellow! This fellow really hid it from us. After this, we will all go to the Dragon's Gate together. We have to harass Xiaochun. Ha ha. Yi Chun laughed very happily without a care in the world. The bitterness in the others' hearts had yet to fade. They simply could not bring themselves to laugh. When Yi Chun saw that no one replied, he laughed dryly in embarrassment and did not say anything more. This was how Chu Yang felt. From the moment Xiaochun took off his mask, his heart was in a mess. Bingyun, I did not manage to help much this time. Sorry for the ridicule. If you have any instructions in the future, this Chu will definitely be the first to rush over. Yu Bingyun quickly said. Young Master Chu is too polite. No matter what, everyone coming is a show of your concern for this little girl. Bingyun will definitely remember this. Chu Yang smiled and said, Unfortunately, Miss Bingyun already has someone in your heart. I'll take my leave first. Like I said, although this Chu is weak, if you need help in the future, just say the word and I will definitely be the first to rush over. Although Chu Yang felt bitter in his heart, he did not lose his grace. He performed a cupped fist salute and took his leave. The group of outstanding talents left one after another. Yu Bingyun thanked them one by one. Although her efforts did not work, there might be a perfect result. The smile on Yu Bingyun's face already expressed her current mood. Speaking of which, why did Xiaochun change his identity? Hiding himself is not his style. Yi Chun said with some conflict after thinking hard. The demon mixed blood Duguao said indifferently. Even if you use your toes to think, if he exposed his identity, how could the primes give him the chance to grow to such a level? That's right. Why did I not think of that? Yi Chun smacked his forehead, startled awake. That's not right. You are indirectly calling me stupid. However, Duguao ignored Yi Chun. After saying goodbye to Yu Bingyun, he left. At the same time, in the center of the heavenly starry ocean, in the largest sea market controlled by the Treasure Master. The mysterious Treasure Master was currently playing Go with the Geo Master Jiang Tianxia in a pavilion above the gigantic immortal statue. The black and white Go stones competed with each other on the crisscrossing Go board. Treasure Master, after not playing for so many years, your Go skills have deteriorated. Or are you purposely letting me win? If you let me win again, you will really lose. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and placed down a white Go stone, chopping down a large dragon. Then he stretched out his hand and picked up the black Go stones one by one. The white Go stones instantly held the advantage. The Treasure Master smiled faintly and said, "Old Jiang, I never let you win. It is just that my Go board is larger than the one in your heart." Dang. Right after the Treasure Master spoke, he tapped the table with his finger. The wooden Go board instantly turned to dust, and the Go stones fell to the table. When the dust settled, Jiang Tian was shocked to discover that the table, which was several times larger than the Go board, had crisscrossed and formed a new Go board. The black and white Go stones did not change. However, now that the white Go stones fell into this larger Go board, the white Go stones, which originally held the advantage, immediately became dangerous. Chapter 1472. He did not seem to be as unfathomable as he appeared before Jiang Tian and the others. Many years ago, there was such a person as well. Xiaochen suddenly rose up and ruined the Myriad Law Fiend Master's plans, leaving an eternal scar. The Myriad Law Fiend Master took a deep breath, his expression changing involuntarily. "I always suspected that the ancient people made this up. How could it possibly exist?" The Bright Moon Empress spoke again, stating that Xiaochen had already attained the Tao. The more the heaven-punishing corpse god spoke, the more horrified he felt. "Attack then. If we still do not attack, we will not have any more chances." Seeing that the Myriad Law Fiend Master was about to leave, the Bright Moon Empress cautiously led Jiang Tian away. After saying that, the Myriad Law Fiend Master immediately left, not lingering. The Treasure Master toyed with the puppet pearl in his hand as a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. The Treasure Master smiled and said, "Even if we do not give up, we will not be able to hold on for long. After another 2 or 3 years, the side effects of the blood-clad battle armor will erupt. At that time, we will all be crippled. Everything in the world has its own rules. Those that succeed in one go are not good. This little fellow's growth is really startling. Perhaps he managed to grow to such a level in a moment of carelessness," the Myriad Law Fiend Master sighed. This was an unprecedented major matter. Never before had the 3 primes of the deity Tao Union felt that the matter was serious, and wanted to discuss it together. He even grasped the legendary Tao. Given some time, he will definitely surpass us. However, the Treasure Master did not give him that chance. He did not want to drag himself into unnecessary danger, so he left after saying so. This old thief is really smart. He was already very careful, but he still discovered him. He left after saying so without hesitation. The Bright Moon Empress muttered with a slight frown. After being stunned for a while, Jiang Tian laughed loudly. "No matter how big the Go puzzle is, so what? When the so-called chess pieces go beyond one's control, everything is nonsense." In the Cactus Palm City, the Treasure Master, who was in a secret room, just learned of the blood-clad sect's destruction from the young Treasure Master. "Yiling Qitian, you make the decision," the Dongyue Ghost Emperor said as he looked at the strongest of the 3, Emperor Forsaken. Jiang Tian smiled and said, "Are you trying to incite me to defect?" "I don't think it's true either. However, according to the news I received, he seems to have really attained the Tao, the great Tao of the Saber." In Xiaochen's heart, he had already decided that the blood-clad sect was a sacrificial pawn. He did not care about the gains or losses. No one below the Supreme Being level could defeat him. The moment these words came out, Jiang Tian and the Myriad Law Fiend Master were both shocked, clearly surprised. Those that could not be seen through were always the ones that people feared the most. The Treasure Master seemed to be playing this game. However, after verifying it from many places, the news was confirmed. Xiao Chun was the shadowless Saber Sovereign. Not only was he not crippled, but he was also promoted to become a new giant of this world. So, The treasure master stood up and waved his hand. Then, he quickly left the pavilion as if he wanted to avoid something, vanishing in the blink of an eye. The treasure master smiled, but did not reply. Then he said softly, "Senior Jiang, you have reached great heights in the geomancy lineage. You traversed the yin and yang realms with ease, but you also met your limits. Xiao, do you want to make a move?" The heaven-punishing corpse god was the most direct. He went straight to the point, unable to restrain his killing intent. Jiang Tian asked sullenly, "What exactly do you want to do?" Jiang Tian sighed. "If it were possible, I really would not want to see him make a move. He gives me a feeling that it is fine if he does not make a move. However, once he makes a move, the entire heavenly starry ocean will fall into a calamity." Compared to Xiao Chen destroying the blood-clad sect, the news of him grasping the saber great Tao was what truly moved the myriad law fiend master. "Fortunately, we already obtained the puppet pearl. Even if the blood-clad sect is destroyed now, it will not affect the overall situation." The treasure master probably did not expect the blood-clad sect to suffer such a heavy blow. "It doesn't matter. Whatever you think, goodbye." It was even rumored that even if a prime appeared, they might not be able to do anything to Xiaochen. When the Bright Moon Empress received a letter, her expression changed slightly, appearing incredibly shocked. Her eyes filled with shock. "Let's go as well. We cannot remain in this place for long." However, if it was destroyed now, the Bright Moon Empress would probably be so frustrated that she would vomit blood. The Go game had not changed. It was just that the Go board had grown larger, and the situation had flipped. Even the treasure master, Emperor Forsaken, did not view him as a true enemy. "This is unexpected. It looks like the plan has to be brought forward." After Ing Zongtian, who was like a teacher and a friend to Xiao Chen, came to know, he revealed a gratified expression. The treasure master probably guessed that someone would cause trouble in the blood-clad sect during their conversation earlier. However, he absolutely did not expect that someone would destroy the entire blood-clad sect. The Bright Moon Empress showed a complicated expression. However, she still told the treasure master everything that she knew. Many years later, there was another person who had escaped his control. The treasure master was not angry at the losses from the destruction of the blood-clad sect. Instead, this matter surpassed his plans and control. "Go out, I understand. However, some people just cannot resist the temptation. Even though they know the consequences, they still believe that they will be an exception." The treasure master controlled his rage and waved his hand to let Yiling out. The treasure master did not give Yiling a chance to show the world his true strength and trump cards. The treasure master said indifferently, "I know your purpose in calling me out. I am just a sacrificial pawn. I've already achieved my goal. If there are any more gains, that would be a pleasant surprise." At first, the cyclic astral lord was stunned for a moment. Then he rejoiced. With the existence that comprehended a Tao, his strength will improve further. It should not be difficult for him to complete the Kunlun Road. After a long silence, the treasure master sighed and muttered to himself. Between the giant statue's fingers, the three of them were as small as ants. The statue lowered its eyes, as if it could see everything in front of it clearly. "I just received news that Xiaochen already killed the blood-clad sect's sect master, Aolang. He also destroyed the entire blood-clad sect's headquarters. The upper echelons of the blood-clad sect all fled with severe injuries." When Jiang Tian heard this, his expression changed slightly. "You gave up on the blood-clad sect? Even if the Holy Lord came personally, he would not be able to destroy the blood-clad sect. However, Xiaochen managed to do it." Yiling felt somewhat dissatisfied, unwilling to believe that this news was true. He seems to have grasped the Tao. Finally, he could truly stand on his own. This was the best news he had heard before the arrival of the Devil Tribulation. The strength that Xiaochen displayed in Western Dragon City was simply too startling. After 5 years of silence, Xiaochen shocked the entire Kunlun realm with one brilliant feat. The Dongyue Ghost Emperor shook his head and said, "No." Back then, before he advanced to Martial Emperor, he was already hard to kill. Now that he has grown to such a level, it will be even harder to kill him. The Myriad Law Fiend Master said softly, "He has been cautious all his life. How could he let himself fall into danger so easily?" This fellow is too mysterious. Although they did not really care about the blood-clad sect, they still understood the blood-clad sect's strength. When the treasure master heard this, he was startled. The usually calm and unfathomable treasure master showed anger for the first time. No, I have to make a trip to Heavenly Star Island. I have to figure this out. Two figures appeared out of nowhere behind Jiang Tian. The Bright Moon Empress and the Myriad Law Fiend Master, the two primes, appeared silently. We kept getting the wrong information. The Shadowless Saber Sovereign is Xiaoqun. Not only did Xiaoqun appear in Western Dragon City, but he is also much stronger than he was 5 years ago. As for the three primes on the deity Dao Union's side, they were all shocked. Emperor Forsaken, the heaven-punishing corpse god, and the Dongyue Ghost Emperor gathered together to discuss this matter. I want to tell you that this world is very big. You still have a lot of room for improvement. As long as you are willing, I can satisfy you. Ah, interesting. Interesting. Based on the two primes' words, it seemed like they intended to work together to test the treasure master. At the same time, the other primes of the Kunlun realm received the news. Jiang Tian asked, "What's wrong?" Chapter 1473. Emperor Forsaken showed an uncertain expression. The other two did not know what he was thinking. The two did not want to disturb Qitian, so they could only wait. After a long time, Emperor Forsaken said coldly, "There's no need. He has not reached the point of death yet. Wait. Wait until he opens the doors of the Blue Dragon Palace. Then he can die." The Blue Dragon Palace? The Dongyue Ghost Emperor and the heaven-punishing corpse god felt confused. Why was Emperor Forsaken still nurturing a tiger at this time? That's right. It is the Blue Dragon Palace. Emperor Forsaken said indifferently. Back then, the Qing Emperor could rise up because of this Blue Dragon Palace. Although they are all human holy lands, the Phoenix's Passion Palace, the White Emperor City, and the Divine Martial Gate do not have a similar holy palace. Have you thought about the reason? This was a matter from 10,000 years ago. The Dongyue Ghost Emperor and the heaven-punishing corpse god did not understand. Furthermore, they did not pay much attention to this information. Emperor Forsaken was different. 10,000 years ago, the deity race was even stronger than it was now. However, it still fell to the hands of the Qing Emperor and his Dragon's Gate. For the past 10,000 years, the deity race had been investigating the Blue Dragon Palace's origins, spending a lot of manpower and resources. I never thought about it. Could there be some other mysteries? The Dongyue Ghost Emperor's eyes flickered as he looked at Emperor Forsaken with some urgency. The Blue Dragon Palace was an even more horrifying existence than the 8 Great Forbidden Lands. It would be a lie to say that they were not tempted. Of course, there are other mysteries. 10,000 years ago, this Blue Dragon Palace did not exist. Do you understand what I mean? That is to say, the Blue Dragon Palace did not come from the Kunlun realm, but from the great realm of the abandoned land. The Dongyue Ghost Emperor and the heaven-punishing corpse god were greatly startled. They had never heard of such a secret before. This was their first time hearing about it. Is this true? The 3 holy masters have personally confirmed it. How can it be fake? Emperor Forsaken said in a deep voice. The reason why the Qing Emperor was able to rise back then was because of the Blue Dragon Palace. And this Blue Dragon Palace contains the inheritance of the Dragon Clan from the Outer Realm. The Qing Emperor inherited the legacy of the extraterritorial Dragon Clan. That's why he became so powerful and became the strongest person in the post-ancient era. The Dongyue Ghost Emperor was still a little confused. Then why didn't the legacy of the other 3 Holy Masters' lands appear? Only the legacy of the Dragon Sect has appeared. Emperor Forsaken replied. I don't know. Only by entering the Blue Dragon Temple will we know the real answer. Therefore, we can't touch Xiaoqun now. We can only kill him if he opens the door of the Blue Dragon Temple, the heaven-punishing corpse god suddenly said. Why are you willing to tell us such important information today? Things are already beyond my control. Don't worry. If we really enter the Blue Dragon Temple, the 3 of us will definitely split the benefits equally. Clearly, the initial silence was because Emperor Forsaken was considering whether to tell the Dongyue Ghost Emperor and the heaven-punishing corpse god. Now it looked like Emperor Forsaken had already made his decision. Xiao Chen's growth had exceeded expectations. Xiao Chen had forced the heaven-punishing corpse god and the Dongyue Ghost Emperor to make a compromise, truly joining hands with the heaven-punishing corpse god and the Dongyue Ghost Emperor. As for how to decide, it will depend on the two of you. If the two of you insist on killing Xiao Chen now, I will not force you. In that case, I won't force it. I'll definitely do my best to eliminate this threat. Emperor Forsaken tossed the ball to the two and did not say anything else. After a while, the Dongyue Ghost Emperor and the heaven-punishing corpse god decided not to kill Xiao Chen for now. The result was within Emperor Forsaken's expectations. No one could resist the temptation of the Blue Dragon Temple. On Heavenly Star Island, on the Dragon's Gate's main peak, Xiao Chen treated his injuries in his courtyard. This place was one of the few places that had not been destroyed by the blood-clad sect. The other injuries on Xiao Chen's body were not particularly severe. The only problematic one was the wound on his chest. Before Ao Lang died, he had infused all his cultivation into that strike. If not for Xiao Chen's already strong physical body, his heart would have shattered. This strike would have shattered Xiao Chen's heart on the spot. At the foot of the cliff, the Dragon's Gate's doyens were gathering the remnant disciples on the island to deal with the Dragon's Gate's funeral matters. Aside from being mentally fatigued, these people recovered rather quickly after they were freed from their restraints. Suddenly, Xiao Chen felt a strong aura sweep through Heavenly Star Island. Then that person quickly flew towards him. This person was very strong. Aside from Xiao Chen, no one else discovered it. Xiao Chen opened his eyes and happened to see the myriad Law Fiend Master land in front of him. When Xiao Chen saw the other party, he felt somewhat shocked. In Xiao Chen's impression, this old man did not care about many things in the outside world. In the Myriad Fiend Island, even his descendants found it extremely difficult to meet this old man. Back then, when Xiao Chen went to the Myriad Fiend Island to meet this old man, many of the Myriad Fiend Island's disciples envied him. "Senior, why are you here?" Xiao Chen asked as he stood up and stopped his cultivation, giving up on treating his injuries for now. "Seeking the Tao." The Myriad Law Fiend Master was very straightforward, not hiding anything. With just these two simple words, Xiao Chen already knew the Myriad Law Fiend Master's purpose. He probably already knew about the battle in the blood-clad sect. That's right. This junior has indeed grasped a complete Saber Tao. However, this is just the first step. I still have a long way to go. Xiao Chen answered honestly, not hiding anything. The Myriad Law Fiend Master's face lit up in joy. Then he revealed an excited expression. "You really grasp Great Tao energy?" Xiao Chen nodded. With a thought, Great Tao energy spread out, forming a faint Tao disc behind him that gave off a bright light. Then the Tao disc condensed into a point and continuously elongated. The Tao might on Xiao Chen's body grew as well. Boom. The Myriad Law Fiend Master slowly felt some pressure. He had no choice but to drive his aura to block. "Enough. You are already injured. There is no need to continue demonstrating. The ancients did not lie to me. A great Tao truly exists in the world. However, this old man is stupid. I'm afraid that I will not be able to comprehend it in this lifetime." The Myriad Law Fiend Master indicated for Xiao Chen to stop. Then he said somewhat disappointedly. At his age, he had not comprehended a Tao yet. He basically had no fate with the Tao. His thoughts were already fixed. It would be very difficult to change. If it were 1,000 years ago, he would have gotten Xiao Chen to demonstrate and explain to the Myriad Law Fiend Master. Given his comprehension ability, he would have had a 50% chance of grasping Great Tao energy. Following that, the Myriad Law Fiend Master asked Xiao Chen about the mysteries of the Tao and how it worked. Xiao Chen was not stingy, telling the Myriad Law Fiend Master everything he could. No matter what, the Myriad Law Fiend Master had helped him during his great tribulation of wind and fire. He owed him a great debt, so what he said was nothing. After a long time, the Myriad Law Fiend Master asked, "Do you blame me for not making a move when the Dragon's Gate was destroyed?" Xiao Chen shook his head. "No. Senior, you are not obligated to defend the Dragon's Gate. You cannot stand on the moral high ground and criticize others. It's good that you can think that way. It's not that I don't want to help. Let me tell you the truth. The people who can help you are all delayed by all kinds of seemingly coincidental things. The myriad law fiend master smiled and said. However, after that, the blood-clad sex people did not dare to go overboard. When the Dragon's Gate's elders were captured, they did not suffer any abuse. Xiaochen was startled. His thoughts moved like lightning. After thinking for a while, he said, Someone wants to test me? That's right. I'm sure you've guessed who it is. However, right now he should be regretting his underestimation of your strength. The myriad law fiend master continued. Your appearance spoiled his plans. The heavenly starry ocean will probably descend into chaos in advance. Given that person's means, it is fine if he does not make a move. However, once he does, the entire heavenly starry ocean will suffer a calamity. Of course, the answer to who that person was went without saying. Xiaochen asked doubtfully, Why don't the three of you primes work together to make a move? Could it be that the three primes are not sufficient to defeat him? Of course, the three primes can defeat him. However, because they cannot figure him out, they do not dare to make a move. No one can bear the consequences of falling out with him. They can only keep their guard up and make their own preparations. The myriad law fiend master sighed softly. The situation is even more complicated than you imagine. Attacking the Dragon's Gate is just a prelude. Cultivate properly, and make use of this rare period of peace to raise your strength further. The Great Tribulation is approaching. A storm will arrive soon. A storm that will destroy the world. Chapter 1474. Senior, aren't you being too serious? Seeing the myriad law fiend master's stern appearance, Xiaochen felt that he had gone overboard. The myriad law fiend master shook his head and said, I am absolutely not joking. I have lived for so many years. I have experienced and know much more than you do. A long time ago, it wasn't particularly difficult to leave this land of exile. Most of the vanished existences in history left. However, now the Kunlun Road is becoming more and more like a dead end, practically a dead end. In the past, the Thunder King was still around. At the very least, he could handle everything. Now that the Thunder King is not around, no one is willing to submit to anyone else. The Kunlun realm is in a state of disunity, unable to withstand a great calamity. Right now, you are the only hope of replacing the Thunder King. You are a variable, the bearer of luck of the Kunlun realm. After saying that, the myriad law fiend master left behind a bottle of the fiend race's holy medicine for treating injuries before leaving quietly. Xiaochen entered deep thought. He felt a strange pressure. This Kunlun realm was no longer calm. However, it was still calm in the eyes of the myriad law fiend master. A true storm would be much more horrifying than this. Destroying the world. If I lose, will everyone in the Kunlun realm die? With this thought, Xiaochen felt his hair stand on end. He really did not want to see this familiar world destroyed. Xiaochen, don't overthink. Just do your best. It is not fair to place the pressure of the entire world on you. Ao Jiao, who was in the lunar shadow saber, consoled Xiaochen. Xiaochen said helplessly, If I were really the bearer of luck and inherited the heavenly Tao's luck, then it would not be as simple as doing my best. Right now, Xiaochen grasped great Tao energy and the supreme magic skill, the divine lightning eye. His potential was limitless. Surpassing Prime was originally an unreachable goal. Now he was not far from it. Luck could not be given to one for free. The heavenly Tao had always been fair. It was a form of self-protection. Although it did not have life or intelligence, it did not want the Kunlun realm to be destroyed. If he failed to do so, his luck would probably turn into misfortune, and many inauspicious things would happen. However, Ao Jiao said a lot. Regardless of whether she believed in fate or not, there were many things that she just had to do her best. If it still didn't work, then there was no other way. People didn't need to trouble themselves. After taking the recuperation medicine left behind by the myriad law fiend master, Xiaochen started to recover quickly. The wound on his chest healed at a visible rate. It looked like the medicinal pill that the myriad law fiend master gave him was a trump card. Presumably, after listening to Xiaochen talk about so many cultivation methods, the other party would feel embarrassed not to express his gratitude. After recovering from his injuries, just as Xiaochen was about to go into seclusion, an unexpected guest arrived. The one who came was the cyclic astral lord, one of the 3 primes of the heavenly starry ocean. He was also the person who had a 100-year agreement with Xiaochen. Xiaochen wasn't surprised by this person's arrival, but he didn't expect him to arrive so quickly. Little brother Xiaochen, congratulations to little brother Xiaochen for killing Ao Lang with 1 saber strike. No one under prime can defeat you. After comprehending great Tao energy, it will be easy for you to surpass prime in the future. The cyclic astral lord's handsome face showed a spring breeze-like smile, making one feel very comfortable. However, Xiaochen knew who the other party was. He replied indifferently, "The cyclic astral lord is too serious. I don't dare to say that I surpass prime. I'm not here for anything else. I just want to tell you to hurry up and cultivate. You don't have much time left. Otherwise, if you can't fulfill the agreement, you will really die." The cyclic astral lord still had a wide smile on his face. However, his words were not polite at all. The oath stone is no joke. If you fail to fulfill the oath you made, the consequences will definitely come true. Xiaochen loathed this person from the bottom of his heart. He said coldly, "Thank you for your auspicious words. Don't worry. I will do it. It's good that you remember. Don't disappoint me." The cyclic astral lord did as he said. After reminding Xiaochen, he laughed and left. After the cyclic astral lord left, the bright moon empress and Jiang Tian, whom Xiaochen had not seen for a long time, appeared together. Furthermore, they were all major characters. The 3 primes of the heavenly starry ocean were all here. Like the myriad law fiend master, these 2 came for the same purpose, to ask about the Tao. Xiaochen did not find this troublesome. He repeated what he had said to the myriad law fiend master. After the 2 heard it, they both gained a lot of comprehensions. This was especially so for the bright moon empress. Her pretty eyes seemed to flicker with starlight. Although he couldn't comprehend the Tao, it would more or less be beneficial to his cultivation. "Xiaochen, it looks like you are different from the Qing emperor back then. I had too deep a prejudice against you in the past. Please don't take it to heart." Xiaochen wondered if he had heard wrong. The bright moon empress actually apologized to him. He smiled bitterly to himself. Indeed, in the end, strength reigns supreme in this world. Even a noble and cold existence like the bright moon empress would still show respect to him after he was strong enough. Palace master is too polite. I have never harbored any hatred for the lunar palace. This was the truth, not a lie. Xiaochen did not feel any hatred for the lunar palace. Of course, he did not have a good impression of it either. After the 2 left, a large number of cultivators arrived. They were either the holy masters of holy lands, or the clan heads of ancient noble clans. These were all major characters of the heavenly starry ocean, people who were rarely seen. However, today they all rushed to the rubble of the Dragon's Gate. In the end, Xiaochen had no choice but to close the doors and reject all guests, getting Emochen to spread the word. 3 months later, when the Dragon's Gate was rebuilt, he would invite everyone to a banquet. Otherwise, Xiaochen would not even need to cultivate after receiving so many people endlessly. The arrival of the 3 primes made Xiaochen understand that time was of the essence. He needed to cultivate quickly and improve his strength. Then he would make a trip to the Blue Dragon Palace. At this moment, the trip to the Blue Dragon Palace was naturally urgent. The trip to the Blue Dragon Palace was very important. Xiaochen could not afford to make any mistakes. He needed to be strong enough to face a prime before he could go. Otherwise, he would be at the mercy of others. Although the 3 primes said that Xiaochen would soon surpass prime, Xiaochen was not lost. However, Xiaochen did not lose himself. Right now, the gap between him and a prime was still rather large. At the very most, he would only have some trump cards that could slightly threaten a supremacy. 5 years ago, Xiaochen had seen a prime make a move during his great tribulation of wind and fire. He knew how horrifying a prime's strength was. Every single existence that could become a supreme being was definitely not an ordinary person. They were all incredibly powerful. Naturally, the first thing Xiaochen needed to do was to recover his primordial energy. Then he would continue to refine it until he could no longer cultivate. After searching through the universe ring, Xiaochen took out all the primordial pills he had. There was a total of 2,000. This was a large number. If Xiaochen absorbed and refined all of them, it would be sufficient to completely recover his primordial energy, or even become even denser. While Xiaochen cultivated, the entire heavenly starry ocean became much more peaceful, as the myriad law fiend master expected. It was like a sign before a storm. After the destruction of the blood-clad sect, the treasure master seemed to have stopped all his plans and chose to hide, vanishing from everyone's sight. The deity Dao Yunyan's side in the Kunlun realm also quieted down, not taking any action. It was like they were waiting for an opportunity. Emperor Forsaken, the Dongyue Ghost Emperor, and the heaven-punishing corpse god rarely showed themselves. The deity Dao Yunyan's actions surpassed many people's expectations. Originally, several people thought that the deity Dao Yunyan would seek trouble for the Blue Dragon King, Xiaochen. Who could have imagined that the deity Dao Yunyan would remain so calm, not reacting at all? However, these peaceful days would be broken one day. The great battle triggered by the Blue Dragon Palace far surpassed Xiaochen's expectations. Chapter 1475. 1 month later, Xiaochen refined all 2,000 primordial pills, and his cultivation finally returned to its peak. Xiaochen now had 1,000 strands of primordial energy. He already had such a cultivation in the first place. After he refined it again, every strand of primordial energy was like a roaming dragon in the heart of an emperor, already possessing the form of a true dragon. It was no longer like before, when it only had an embryonic form and could not reach such a level. Xiaochen felt that he could no longer cultivate. He could no longer cultivate primordial energy, as if there was an invisible wall blocking it. No matter what, the primordial energy of the outer realm could not advance his primordial energy any further. Xiaochen had already reached the bottleneck of Emperor. Unless he broke through to Prime, he could not advance further. However, the path that Xiaochen took was too special. He could not even be considered Emperor Wu, so how could he break through to Prime? How should he cultivate in the later realms? This was truly frustrating. This was a very awkward realm. Xiaochen was only 35 years old. In the Kunlun realm, he could be considered an outstanding talent at this age. Despite being so young, Xiaochen could no longer cultivate. He clearly still had vast potential to dig out. Unfortunately, Xiaochen already stood at the peak of this abandoned land. There was no other path for him to take. The Purple Emperor's door hovered in the middle of the heart of an emperor. This piqued Xiaochen's interest. He remembered that the Emperor's door contained an incredibly vast energy. Back then, it only opened a small crack, and it allowed Xiaochen to defeat Diwuk with one punch the instant he jumped off the Emperor's road. Perhaps the mysterious Emperor's door was a direction for Xiaochen to continue advancing his cultivation. Unfortunately, the strands of primordial energy turned into roaming dragons and circled the surroundings. No matter how the primordial energy attacked, it could not shake this Emperor's door at all, and could only return empty-handed. Perhaps the only way forward was to seek the answer in that mysterious Blue Dragon Palace. Let's try again. Xiaochen decided to attack that Purple Emperor's door again. Now that Xiaochen had returned to his peak, he might have a chance of pushing open the Emperor's door. With this thought, Xiaochen steeled himself. The strands of primordial energy that looked like true dragons intertwined and intertwined. The 1,000 strands of primordial energy intertwined and twisted together like hemp ropes. The primordial energy took the shape of a huge dragon. The purple dragon scales on its body were clearly visible, looking like a true lightning dragon. The Emperor's door floated in the air, its 2 purple doors tightly shut. In this heart of an emperor, there was silence and suppression. Charge. Xiaochen's heart was filled with heroism. He decisively controlled the primordial energy that was twisted together, and charged toward the Emperor's door. With a loud bang, the primordial energy crashed into the Emperor's door and immediately scattered. The entire heart of an emperor turned chaotic and blurry. When the intimidating power rebounded, Xiaochen could not help but vomit a mouthful of blood. When the primal chaos dissipated, Xiaochen looked at the tightly shut Emperor's door and smiled bitterly. It still didn't work. It was just that he did not notice that the originally tough primordial energy had become much softer after seeping into the traces of spiritual liquid. Hard mixed with soft. Hard and soft advanced together. The primordial chaos power invisibly advanced. However, Xiaochen, who was focused on the emperor's door, did not notice this subtle change. Never mind. Although my cultivation has stagnated, there are still many areas where I can improve. After wiping away the blood at the corner of his lips, Xiaochen shook his head and stopped thinking about this problem. Great Tao energy, the divine lightning eye, the perfection of the flawless saber technique, the comprehension of the Taiji Dao, and so on. There were still many areas where he could improve his strength. Xiaochen had his own priorities. As for which area he should improve, he already had a balance in his heart. The only trump card that he did not expose was the divine lightning eye, a supreme magic skill. By relying on the universe origin Dao fruit, Xiaochen had not only comprehended great Dao energy, but his magic energy had also soared. After yuaniying, there were still nascent soul transformation, void refinement, and great realization. Now Xiaochen had already broken through soul transformation and reached the void refinement realm. However, Xiaochen would not spend too much time on immortal cultivation. Even immortal venerates were only SOSO. There was no need to spend too much time. As long as Xiaochen's magic energy increased, he could easily execute magic skills like the Divine Lightning Eye and Dermic World. After that, Xiaochen spent most of his time on comprehending the Divine Lightning Eye. He had to cultivate it to the third layer, and layer on 3 lightning tribulations at the same time. He spent the remaining time on cultivating Great Tao energy, continuing to stabilize his current cultivation. He set aside the flawless saber technique, myriad heaven divine fist, the Taiji Dao, the fish dragon art, and other movement techniques for now. He just needed to familiarize himself with them. Peaceful days passed just like that. Time passed bit by bit. At the foot of the mountain, the Dragon's Gate was being rebuilt. Back then, although the buildings in the city were destroyed, the foundations were still there. The formation lines buried underground were only damaged and not destroyed. The rebuilding proceeded very quickly. In less than 1 month, the outline of the city appeared. With the entire sect working together to rebuild a city, with the help of various factions, a new Heaven Dragon city would appear on Heavenly Star Island in less than 2 months. The sun rose and set. Clouds gathered and dispersed. In the blink of an eye, another month passed. Xiaochen's comprehension ability was astonishing. He had already cultivated the Divine Lightning Eye to the 2nd layer. With a thought, he could layer 2 lightning tribulations in his right eye and send them out. However, he failed to break through to the 3rd layer of the Divine Lightning Eye after several attempts. Magic energy surged in Xiaochen's sea of consciousness as he formed hand seals with both hands. Talisman seals flickering with light condensed in his sea of consciousness, filling the sky like snow as they entered the 10,000 tribulation divine lightning. After Xiaochen formed the final hand seal, the originally dim and motionless 10,000 tribulation divine lightning spun quickly, shooting out thousands of electric lights. The 10,000 tribulation divine lightning illuminated the entire sea of consciousness. Everything in the sea of consciousness lost its color before the light of this divine lightning. Its own light covered. When the immortal epic's lightning tribulation ancestor released its light, everything lost its color. Xiaochen felt an intense swelling in his right eye. All the electric light condensed into a seed and entered it. The seed was buried in the depths of his right eye. The magic energy in his sea of consciousness became its nourishment, quickly draining. When it drained half of the magic energy, the lightning tribulation seed broke out of the ground and bloomed, producing 2 flowers. The black flower had 9 petals that spun quickly in his right eye. Xiaochen's aura soared infinitely. Thunderclouds descended in the sky, looking like one could touch them just by stretching out one's hand. Whoosh! The instant the 2 petals merged, a bolt of electric light appeared 1 kilometer away and exploded space. Horrifying thunder resounded everywhere. If not for Xiaochen suppressing its might, these 2-layered lightning tribulations would have been sufficient to instantly kill an 8th Heaven Martial Emperor, Emperor Wu. Even the Holy Lord would have been severely injured by the explosion, losing his combat prowess. However, it would be hard to say for a prime. It would be hard to deal a fatal blow. Only 3-layered lightning tribulations can seriously injure a prime. Otherwise, a prime would be able to recover from regular injuries in an instant. Xiaochen muttered to himself as he analyzed. Unfortunately, Xiaochen did not comprehend the Thunder Great Dao back then but the Saber Dao. If he comprehended the Thunder Great Dao, with the support of Great Dao energy, the might of the Divine Lightning Eye's second layer would be sufficient to threaten a prime. There was no perfect solution. If Xiaochen had not comprehended the complete Saber Dao, the might of the flawless saber technique would not have been as strong as it was now. Executing the Divine Lightning Eye's second layer is already incredibly easy. Give me another month, and I should be able to execute the Divine Lightning Eye's third layer. Xiaochen closed his eyes and sat down cross-legged to cultivate again. The cultivation of the Divine Lightning Eye was not particularly difficult. After all, this was a supreme magic skill that the Thunder Immortal Ancestor directly imparted to Xiaochen. Furthermore, Xiaochen had the 10,000 Tribulation Divine Lightning, a powerful killing tool. All he needed to do was comprehend it properly and advance step by step. Time passed peacefully for 1 month. On this day, as Xiaochen prepared to make another breakthrough to the Divine Lightning Eye's third layer, at the foot of the mountain, a beautiful figure floated over to this place. Xiaochen revealed a smile on his face as he set aside his plans. Then he leaped up and landed before the person. Emo-chen, you are here. The person who came was Emo-chen. Normally, she would not disturb Xiaochen. Since she was here, she definitely had something to tell Xiaochen. In 3 months, not only had Xiaochen completely recovered from his injuries, but his complexion was even better than before. Vaguely, Xiaochen already had an invisible aura that rivaled that of the Holy Lord. He was in high spirits and looked very handsome. Emo-chen was entranced by this sight. After she startled to her senses, her pretty face blushed slightly. She smiled and said, "The Dragon's Gate's reconstruction is more or less complete. 3 days from now, we will invite the various holy lands and noble clans of the heavenly starry ocean to a banquet. At that time, Big Brother Xiao will have to appear. I came to inform you to make preparations." When Xiaochen heard this, he said softly, "So it has already been 3 months. It's fine. I will be there on time 3 days from now. In that case, I will take my leave first. I will not disturb Big Brother Zhao's closed-door cultivation." Chapter 1476. Seeing that Emo-chen was about to leave, Xiaochen said, "There is no need to be so distant. After 3 months of closed-door cultivation, I also want to go somewhere. Accompany me." When Emo-chen heard that, she felt somewhat surprised. There are still 3 more days to the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment banquet. Where is Big Brother Xiao going? Where to? Starfire City, Bloody Cemetery. There, how unexpected. Big Brother Xiao actually wants to go there. That place is not very auspicious. What, you don't have time? Xiaochen asked upon seeing Emo-chen's hesitation. No, I have time. Are we leaving now? Emo-chen said with a smile, startled to her senses. Even if she did not have time, she had to squeeze some time out. Yes. With a wave of Xiaochen's hand, 2 mutated flood dragons pulled the cycle war chariot and descended from the sky. Xiaochen boarded the chariot first, then made an inviting gesture. Emo-chen smiled. She felt somewhat happy at Xiaochen's actions. After the 2 entered the chariot, it instantly soared into the clouds and arrived at the transportation formation on Heavenly Star Island. This trip to the Kunlun continent would take 3 days. Flying alone would not be enough. Xiaochen needed to be transported to the Tianwu Domain's central province first. From there, he could rush to Meteor Trail City. That way, 3 days would be sufficient. Big Brother Xiao, why do you want to go to the Bloody Cemetery? That place? Emo-chen asked timidly in the carriage. She had been to that place once. The sky was filled with the blood crows of Xiaochen's sins. There was also the graveyard, and all of the tombstones had Xiaochen's name written in blood. From the moment Xiaochen took off his mask and drew his lunar shadow saber, the knot in his heart was mostly resolved. At this moment, it was enough for him to face it calmly. He said softly, "It's all right. Running away isn't a solution. The past is the past. No matter how much I regret it, it's useless. I just want to take one last look and see if I can eliminate all the sins in the sky. Now that the knot in his heart had been resolved, he had to think of a way to get rid of the sin that filled the sky. Otherwise, if he kept it around, it would be hard to avoid trouble. The origins of his sins were very strange. He had killed countless people, so many that he could not even count them. However, when he thought about it, they were all people who deserved to be killed. They had never killed the innocent, so their sins shouldn't be so great. There was only one explanation, and that was that his sins were left to him by the Qing emperor. Furthermore, he had a vague feeling that his emperor's road 5 years ago was a trap. The appearance of the Scarlet Emperor's road was not a coincidence. Perhaps there were other mysteries. Of course, all of this was just a guess, and there was no substantial evidence. We're here. Half a day later, Meteor Trail City came into view. The scarlet clouds in the sky were already right before their eyes. Xiaochen gently waved his sleeves, and the cycle war chariot turned into a throne and entered his white clothes. The two of them slowly descended from the sky and stood in the ruins of the city gate. Looking at the ruined Meteor Trail City under the dim light, the two of them felt emotional. The scenes from 5 years ago appeared in his mind. Even now, it felt like it was just yesterday. That great battle was truly world-shaking. It was fought until the heavens and earth darkened, and the memory of it was still fresh in his mind. He would probably never forget it in his life. The difficulty of every step on the Emperor's road was deeply engraved in Xiaochen's heart. He would never be able to forget it. When Xiaochen saw the smile on Mo Chen's pretty face vanish, he asked softly with a grave expression, "Are you thinking about the past?" Mo Chen forced a smile and replied, "I'm thinking about many things. I was thinking, if Big Brother Xiao had not jumped off his Emperor's road because of us, what would the situation be like now?" "Do you believe in karma?" "What do you mean?" "Karma means that there are no coincidences in the world. There is a reason for everything that happens, a purpose for its existence." Seeing that Mo Chen still did not fully understand, Xiaochen smiled and did not explain further. He simply said, "Actually, in my opinion, the final test of the Emperor's road is not whether I can clear it or not. It is whether I have the courage to jump off. 5 years later, when I look back, I actually won the gamble." Mo Chen's eyes narrowed slightly, looking like beautiful crescent moons. She smiled and said, "As long as Big Brother Xiao can walk out of the shadow, Mo Chen feels that it is good." Xiaochen felt a warmth in his heart. He looked to the front and said, "Come in and take a walk with me." "All right." Xiaochen was very familiar with the graveyard. For the past 5 years, he would come here every year. Every time he came, the pain in his heart intensified. In the end, he no longer had the courage to get off the cycle war chariot and remove his mask. Now that he was revisiting this place, Xiaochen got off the war chariot, removed his mask, and brought his friends over. The pain was no longer there. It was more of a feeling. What death represented was not destruction but new life. Back then, these people died for him. They did not have any other hope. They only hoped that Xiaochen could step forward and become the true bearer of luck. Xiaochen would lead them to resist the deity Dao Yunyan, to resist the demonic calamity that could descend at any moment. Their new lives rested on Xiaochen. As long as Xiaochen could walk out, these people would gain new lives. If one could not walk out, then death would be destruction, grief, despair, all pain and all negative emotions. After comprehending the state of cycle, Xiaochen's perspective on the problem was no longer the same as before. He could calmly look at all this. All he needed to do was be grateful and continue walking down this path. Remaining in seclusion and holding on to a knot in his heart was the greatest disrespect to these dead people. Strange. After walking around for a long time, Xiaochen revealed a doubtful expression, feeling very confused. When Mo Chen saw this, she quickly asked, "Big Brother Xiao, what's wrong?" "In the past, when I came here, there would be a large number of blood crows coming after hearing the news. However, this time, aside from the blood clouds in the sky, I did not see any blood crows. The number of blood crows has decreased significantly." Mo Chen did not understand. "What's wrong with that?" "Something is very wrong. Someone is refining these blood crows. absorbing and digesting the sins in my body. Xiaochen frowned slightly as he thought of a bad answer. In the past, some deep abyss blood demon cultivators would come here to refine and absorb the blood crows. However, those people did not harm the source of sin. The more blood crows they killed, the more would recover. However, this time, Xiaochen clearly felt the pressure of sin in the sky weaken. The number of blood crows had decreased. What kind of person was doing this? Xiaochen closed his eyes and spread out his spiritual sense in the scarlet graveyard. Xiaochen searched slowly. In the end, aside from some scattered grave sweepers, there were also blood demons here on experiential training. Xiaochen did not discover anyone worthy of suspicion. Could my senses have been wrong? Xiaochen was not satisfied. He used his spiritual sense to search several more times but found nothing. Then he personally walked through the entire graveyard. In the end, he still did not discover anything. However, he ran into a few blood demons and dealt with them in passing. When Xiaochen looked up, the thick scarlet clouds in the sky seemed to be dimmer than before. However, the difference was not great, making it hard to judge. Big brother Xiao, perhaps that person is in the sky. Emo Chen's words startled him out of his reverie. Xiaochen's eyes lit up as he said, "That's right. The blood clouds in the sky are filled with heavy sin. If one comes into contact with them, one will be plagued with sin. Most people would not go there, so I automatically ignored it. However, if there really is someone who can refine the sin's origin energy, they will not care about this." With a thought, Xiaochen gently pushed off the ground with his feet. Then he shot out like a sharp arrow and instantly entered the blood clouds. However, there were other mysteries in the blood clouds. It was like there was a cotton-like barrier separating them. No matter how hard Xiaochen tried, he could not break it. Instead, he got plagued by sin, feeling extremely uncomfortable. After a few attempts, Xiaochen's eyes turned scarlet. Black lines appeared on the surface of his eyeballs. That was a sign that the sin had penetrated deep into his body, already infiltrating his mind. It was extremely dangerous. Xiaochen did not dare to linger. He quickly left the blood clouds and landed on the ground. Then he quickly used his great Tao energy to cut off all the sin in his body. "What's wrong?" Emo Chen asked somewhat worriedly when she saw that something was wrong with Xiaochen. After purging the sin in his body, Xiaochen revealed a smile. "You are right. There is indeed another path above the blood clouds. To think that even I cannot break it easily." Not being able to break it easily did not mean that it could not be broken. It just required some effort. Xiaochen was not afraid of trouble. He only feared that he would not be able to find any clues. Now that he had a clue, he was naturally happy. "Move further away." Xiaochen gestured for Emo Chen to move further away. With a thought, the ring of light that represented great Tao energy appeared behind him. The ring of light condensed into a point and soared into the air. When it reached 10 meters, Xiaochen shouted, "Tao!" Xiaochen pointed his finger to the sky, and a saber light, supported by great Tao energy, lit up the dark meteor trail city. The saber light turned into a resplendent beam of light, carrying a boundless saber intent. Whoosh! It shot out and instantly tore a hole in the blood clouds. Chapter 1477. Just listen to me. Will you? The lunar shadow saber appeared. Xiaochen grasped its hilt and faced the prime without any fear. Xiaochen did not draw the lunar shadow saber. If Xiaochen drew the lunar shadow saber, he would be able to block this palm strike. Then Xiaochen soared into the air like a sharp arrow. With a whoosh, he tore through the scarlet clouds. Chase. The primordial energy that Xiaochen expended was not worth it. Why is this fellow still here? He is like a lingering ghost. In the time it took for a spark to fly, Zhuang Zhenghe turned his head and formed hand seals. A swastika Buddhist seal burst out from his palm and blocked Xiaochen's saber strike. Tao. The saber strike tore through the air, and the light of destruction flickered as it suddenly appeared behind Zhuang Zhenghe. This was a martial technique for killing enemies. However, Zhuang Zhenghe had to use it to rush. It was somewhat of a waste. Xiaochen's figure moved like a phantom of flowing light, moving far away amid the Bodhi flowers filling the sky. Interesting. The Dongyue Ghost Emperor knew that he could not detain the current Xiaochen, so he was not willing to fight with Xiao Chun, wasting his efforts. The Kitagarbha Bodhisattva? Xiao Chun shook his head and said, "That's impossible. If you hand over Zhuangzhenghe, I'll leave. Otherwise, you can forget about stopping me." Just as Xiao Chun was thinking, Zhuangzhenghe suddenly laughed maniacally, appearing incredibly savage. Zhuangzhenghe should not have come in person. Otherwise, he would not have fled so quickly at the slightest sign of trouble. "Ah, little fool Xiao Chun, you are really naive. Do you think that you can defeat me? Look at where you are now. I'll count to 3, and you are still not leaving. It will be hard for you to leave now." "Ha! That's the count to 3. Xiao Chun, you can die now." The Dongyue Ghost Emperor laughed loudly, and the Yellow Spring's mysterious phenomenon vanished. Then he left. Xiao Chun revealed an expression of joy as he turned around. Whoosh! 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 A strong wind blew, and Xiao Chun retreated 5 kilometers. The Dao Might behind him did not scatter as he stood firmly. "Humph! What Zhuangzhenghe? I have never seen him before, nor do I know him. I don't mind teaching you a lesson." The Dongyue Ghost Emperor laughed coldly. An eerie wind blew, and wisps of spirits floated out from his body. When the cultivators who came to sweep the graves in the graveyard saw the mysterious phenomenon before them, they could not understand what was happening. Looking up, the boundless starry sky was dotted with thousands of stars, like a chessboard, giving one the illusion that they were in the universe. Zhuangzhenghe was clearly in the ghost domain. How could he be willing to leave just like that? Xiao Chun flew forward and caught the divine weapon that bounced back. He said indifferently, "Not bad. You changed your appearance and your strength improved significantly. It wouldn't be that easy to leave." The corner of Xiao Chun's mouth curled up into a smile. His interest grew. With a wave of his hand, the 7 deadly sins floated out. The moment the blood clouds parted, a wisp of golden Buddhist light fell from the entrance of the cave. It was bright and dazzling, and it was especially eye-catching in this dark space. When Xiao Chun looked again, Zhuangzhenghe was long gone. Given his movement technique, he would definitely not be able to catch up. The newcomer retreated 1 kilometer and hovered in the air, merging with the sky. Soon, the spirits and malicious spirits materialized the vast mysterious phenomenon of hell. "What is that?" The bloody monk, Zhuangzhenghe, wiped off the blood from his lips. He said with some hatred, "How can it compare to you, Blue Dragon King Xiao Chun? After 5 years of silence, 5 years of silence, you shocked the entire Kunlun realm with a single brilliant feat." This greatly startled Xiao Chun. The Buddha statue looked like the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva that he had seen before. The image of the Buddha statue sat within, slowly fading away. The flood-like source of sin slowly scattered from the body of the image. Whoosh! Ghost domain. Is that so? However, my saber has not truly been drawn yet. How can you be so proud and aloof? Under Prime, you are the first person capable of receiving 30% of my palm strike's force, the Dongyue Ghost Emperor said indifferently. The East Mountain Ghost Monarch asked indifferently. As he looked at Xiao Chun, there was an unconcealable fluctuation hidden in his calm gaze. When the person in front turned his head to look, he was startled. Then he fled in a fluster. Feeling nervous, he slowed down. This formed a boundless pressure of the great Tao, strong and tyrannical. This was the aura of a prime. Xiao Chun did not care about the mocking tone in the Dongyue Ghost Emperor's words. He asked coldly, "Where is the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva? Tell me what you are plotting, and I'll leave you with an intact corpse." In the end, this fellow truly rose up. Now Xiao Chun no longer had absolute confidence of keeping the other party here. He raised his head and looked into the distance. There was a black dot at the limits of his vision, quickly moving away. Suddenly, a figure descended from the sky and threw a palm strike at Xiao Chun. This palm strike was gentle and soft, but it contained startling might. The instant the palm wind landed, the entire sky seemed to descend along with the person. Xiao Chun's heart skipped a beat. "Big brother Ing is here. Ing Zongtian, at least you know what's good for you." The saber light and palm wind clashed, and the world turned dark. Then it shattered into pieces, the entire sky shattering. "Big brother." Dang. Furthermore, there was still the Dongyue Ghost Emperor blocking the way. There was no way to give chase. Xiao Chun retorted coldly, not bothering to hide his expression. Xiao Chun narrowed his eyes and executed the fish dragon art. Then he moved around like a dragon. Then he shook off all the sins that came over and gave chase. A light flashed, and the 7 divine weapons merged into one. Then Xiao Chun stepped on the 7 deadly sins. Xiao Chun executed the first move of the flawless saber technique, the void-breaking stance. Wait here for me for a while. This fellow is so confident. What trump cards does he have? Xiao Chun narrowed his eyes as he looked at this person. This person was one of the deity Dao Yunyan's 3 primes, the Dongyue Ghost Emperor. Xiao Chun could not help shouting, "Zhuangzhenghe, it turns out that you are not dead yet." Adding Zongtian's request, Xiao Chun helplessly gave up and withdrew his great Dao might. In that instant, Xiao Chun's vision widened. The Buddhist light descended for a moment before vanishing. Clearly, it was the person refining this sin's origin energy. Knowing that he had been exposed and that something was wrong, he quickly withdrew his technique and left. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Xiao Chun executed the void-breaking stance again. However, this time he did not use the saber but space. Bang! Just at this moment, a figure flew over from behind. He was like a Haotian sun, illuminating the surroundings and sending out a bright light. Back then, Xiao Chun had destroyed the other party's lair in the sea region adjacent to Heavenly Star Island, leaving only a head behind. Unexpectedly, this person came out again and stirred up trouble. However, Xiao Chun had no choice now. He used his body to control the saber, using the saber to control space, tearing through space. With Xiao Chun's wasteful consumption, his speed immediately increased explosively. Everywhere he passed, tears appeared in space. Strange, I clearly have no impression of this person's appearance. Why does the air he exudes seem so familiar? Light flickered in Xiao Chun's palm, and the images of many sabers spun around and merged into the saber. After 1 hour, not only did Zhuangzhenghe not close the distance, but it even widened. Zhuangzhenghe felt very confident, showing no fear as he showed a mocking expression. Dongyue Ghost Emperor. However, this person before Zhuangzhenghe seemed to be a surprise. Unexpectedly, he was incredibly fast. A Buddhist light flickered under Zhuangzhenghe's feet, and Bodhi lights surrounded him. Flowers bloomed and withered. Upon hearing Xiao Chun's shout, the owner of that body clearly paused, significantly startled. That was right. This person was Ying Zongtian. He had sensed an intense fluctuation in the Haotian sect. When he discovered that it was Xiao Chun, he immediately gave chase. The instant the other party turned his head, Xiao Chun clearly saw his appearance, and he immediately felt suspicious. This startled Xiao Chun, but he did not fluster in the face of danger. At the critical moment, Xiao Chun shouted, and great Dao energy filled his entire body as he swung his saber. With Xiao Chun's speed, as long as a prime did not make a move, no one could escape from him. However, I have something very important that requires me to go to the ghost domain. Whoosh! After giving chase for a while, inspiration flashed in Xiao Chun's mind. Suddenly he recalled why this aura felt so familiar. Aha! How arrogant! Don't be unable to differentiate good from bad. Leave immediately, and I'll pretend that I did not see you. It looked like a startling battle was about to start. Xiao Chun looked around and realized that he had chased Zhuangzhenghe all the way from the Tianwu domain to the ghost domain. Chapter 1478. Big Brothering. Why did you let him go? With our combined strength, we can definitely make him retreat. Xiao Chun said reluctantly. Since Zhuangzhenghe fled to the ghost domain, he definitely had something to do with the Dongyue Ghost Emperor. Xiao Chun was unwilling to give up such a good lead. Ying Zongtian smiled and said, "It's not that simple. The strength of a prime is more powerful than you imagine. If you really fought, you would be the one at a disadvantage. Furthermore, he has the geographical advantage in the ghost domain, and the ghost race experts can help him at any time. Even with me, if we were to fight, it would only be a situation where both sides would suffer." After listening to Ying Zongtian's explanation, Xiao Chun slowly calmed down and analyzed the situation. That was indeed the case. Naturally, Xiao Chun understood this logic. However, he was too anxious and lost his rationality. There was still a huge gap between him and a prime. At best, he could retreat unscathed. However, this was already very impressive. For many years, no one had been able to challenge the authority of a prime. Before a prime, the Ninth Heaven Emperor Wu was just an ordinary existence. To be able to catch the Dongyue Ghost Emperor's palm strike calmly and confront him, Xiao Chen's improvement was already very obvious. Many thanks, big brother. I was indeed too anxious earlier, but Xiao Chen had never been one to waste time on an insignificant problem. After thinking it through, he immediately thanked Xiao Chen. Ying Zongtian smiled amiably. Even if I didn't come, nothing would have happened to you. However, what's wrong? It must be something extraordinary for you to be so anxious. Xiao Chen nodded and explained his encounter in the bloody cemetery, as well as the ins and outs of the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva. That's true. In that case, I really took the risk earlier. After hearing that, Ying Zongtian regretted letting the Dongyue Ghost Emperor go for nothing. Now that he thought about it, the Dongyue Ghost Emperor clearly had other reasons for retreating so easily despite having the geographical advantage. Xiao Chen, on the other hand, was a little more open-minded. He smiled and said, "It's better to give this matter further thought. Since I'm here, big brother Ying, please invite me to the Haotian sect." Ying Zongtian was rather carefree. The smile on his face did not fade. He nodded and said, "Let's go and have a drink or two. You can explain to me about Tao. Don't hold back." "Of course, I'll tell you everything I know. But I have to go to the bloody cemetery first. I have a friend waiting for me there." "All right, let's go." The two of them leapt into the air and swiftly left the ghost domain. On the other side, after the Dongyue Ghost Emperor left, he met up with Zhuang Zhenghe with a gloomy expression. "I've told you many times not to contact me. It's not time to expose our relationship yet," scolded the Dongyue Ghost Emperor coldly. Zhuang Zhenghe appeared somewhat startled, not daring to retort. He whispered, "I did not expect this brat to grow so fast. I thought that you would be able to deal with him easily with your means." "Nonsense. If I could deal with him easily, why would I allow him to live until now? Let me tell you, even Emperor Forsaken would have to put in a lot of effort to kill him now." The earlier palm strike had failed to truly push back Xiao Chen. The Dongyue Ghost Emperor felt somewhat frustrated, and he was not in a good mood. If not for the need to maintain some connection to the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva, the Dongyue Ghost Emperor would not have been so magnanimous to Xiao Chen without this worry. How can he be so strong? In that case, why did you not kill him? Aren't you just nurturing a tiger and inviting calamity? Zhuang Zhenghe asked with lingering fear. It turned out that he had nearly died at the other party's hands. Fortunately, Zhuang Zhenghe had not been careless and fled when the situation turned bad. Otherwise, he might have ended up as a pile of bones. The Dongyue Ghost Emperor glanced at Zhuang Zhenghe and said indifferently, "You do not need to know about this. Bring me to see the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva." Before a prime, Zhuang Zhenghe did not show any temper. He was docile and knew how to adapt to circumstances. After listening to the prime's instructions, Zhuang Zhenghe quickly led the Dongyue Ghost Emperor to the Yellow Springs of Hell. Right now, Hell had already become a forbidden land, not open to the public. Furthermore, after the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva's head merged with his body, his control over Hell became very strong. If he was not willing, even a prime would find it hard to see him. With Zhuang Zhenghe leading the way, the Dongyue Ghost Emperor arrived at the gates of Hell without any obstructions. After the gates of Hell was the Yellow Springs. He recalled that the 6 paths of reincarnation were here as well. "Wait here," the Dongyue Ghost Emperor said. After the East Mountain Ghost Monarch said that, he walked in alone. After crossing the gates of Hell, it was the Yellow Springs Road. Even a prime could only see black and white in this world. Aside from that saber light that someone left behind many years ago, no one else could bring color to this place. However, the situation now seemed somewhat different. At the end of the Yellow Springs Road, extremely far away, one could vaguely see a 7-colored Buddhist light. It was like the waves of the sea rising and falling, appearing indistinct. When one listened carefully, one could hear many Buddhist incantations echoing in one's ears. The incantation that was buzzing like a mosquito was not being chanted by one person, but by the overlapping voices of many people. The Buddhist incantations overlapped, and the Buddhist might was heavy, calming one's heart and making one sigh at the might of Buddhist might. On the Yellow Springs Road, the Dongyue Ghost Emperor moved quickly. Soon he arrived at the abyss-like underworld river. On the other side of the river was the boundless sea of bitterness. The sea of bitterness was filled with endless aggrieved spirits. A large Buddha floated on the sea. The aggrieved spirits and malicious spirits were like ants struggling in the sea of bitterness. There were 800 arhats around the large Buddha, chanting with their eyes closed. The overlapping Buddhist incantations came from these people. Occasionally, a large number of aggrieved spirits and malicious spirits were purified. They flew into the large Buddha's body like thousands of fireflies. Naturally, the large Buddha was the mysterious and unfathomable Kittagarbha Bodhisattva. He opened his eyes and withdrew his dharmic incarnation. Then he leaped over the underworld river and arrived before the Dongyue Ghost Emperor. That disciple of yours seems to be rather unlucky. Not long after he helped you refine the sin, Xiaochen discovered him. The Dongyue Ghost Emperor said with some dissatisfaction. He even exposed my relationship with you. The Kittagarbha Bodhisattva's mortal body was that of an old man wearing a kasaya and holding a staff. He had a long beard and eyebrows, looking like an esteemed Buddhist monk from head to toe. It has not reached that stage yet. He does not know my background, much less my current strength. Even if he discovered some clues, he could not do anything about it. You are not here to seek me out over such a small matter, right? The Kittagarbha Bodhisattva's deep eyes revealed boundless wisdom and an unfathomable Buddhist light. That's right. Emperor Forsaken predicted that Xiaochen would go to the Blue Dragon Palace soon. How much do you know about the Blue Dragon Palace? Tell me. The Dongyue Ghost Emperor did not believe in Buddhism. Buddhism did not exist in the Kunlun realm, either. Hence, the Dongyue Ghost Emperor was not interested in the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva's identity, and did not show much respect for him. The Dongyue Ghost Emperor only treated the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva as an expert, a peak expert who was strong enough to work with him. In the Dongyue Ghost Emperor's eyes, strength reigned supreme. All faith, including the deity race, was meaningless. I have never heard of the Blue Dragon Palace. However, in my era, the Blue Dragon already existed. It was one of the 7-colored divine dragons. It had a noble bloodline, and was second only to the 3 ancestor dragons in the dragon race. Upon hearing this, greed flashed in the Dongyue Ghost Emperor's eyes. He looked at the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva and said, I need you to help me. In the end, Emperor Forsaken is too selfish. I don't believe that he will give up a lot of benefits. I still have to rely on myself. The Kittagarbha Bodhisattva thought for a long time before saying, sure. However, you have to think of a way to help me refine the sins in the bloody graveyard. That is difficult. Xiaochen is on guard. Furthermore, that place is in Zongtian's territory. The Dongyue Ghost Emperor muttered to himself with a frown. Weighing the pros and cons, think about it yourself. This bodhisattva still needs to purify the thousands of aggrieved souls in this hell. I swear not to become a Buddha until hell is empty. The Kittagarbha Bodhisattva chanted his Buddhist name, and a strange light flashed in his eyes. Then he reverted to his dharmic incarnation, and continued purifying the aggrieved souls and malicious spirits in the boundless sea of bitterness. When the Dongyue Ghost Emperor saw this scene, he thought to himself, this old bald donkey is no easier to deal with than Emperor Forsaken. None of them were easy to deal with. The Dongyue Ghost Emperor flung his sleeves and pondered how to satisfy the other party's conditions. Then he left this place. The boundless sea of bitterness in the Yellow Springs hell still existed. Only the saber light that the Qing Emperor left behind no longer existed. Chapter 1479. Tianwu Domain Haotian Sect. Xiaochen and Mochen and Ing Zongtian casually sat down in a pavilion on a mountain peak and analyzed the matter of the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva. I know about this Kittagarbha Bodhisattva. Long ago, there was a legend that there was a great Buddha hidden in the depths of hell with extremely horrifying strength. However, He never left hell and never interfered with the matters of the outside world. Hence, few people know about him. Ing Zongtian put down his teacup and continued. Furthermore, the Qing emperor already killed him 10,000 years ago. Hence, no one paid any attention to the matter of this great Buddha. Emochen read many ancient texts on Buddhism. Then she continued. During the immortal epoch, Buddhism flourished, not much weaker than the immortal court. In the cultivation of Buddhism, Bodhisattva was in existence only inferior to Buddha. They were only one step away from becoming a Buddha. Feeling interested, Xiaochen asked, which step? Grand vows. For a Bodhisattva to become a Buddha, one has to cultivate the Mahayana Buddhist scriptures and make a grand vows. After completing them, one can prove one's Tao and become a Buddha. When Xiaochen heard this, he felt stunned. He asked in confusion, that simple? In that case, if a Bodhisattva purposely made the grand vows very simple, wouldn't one be able to become a Buddha easily? Emochen smiled faintly and said, you could say that. However, no one would do that. The difficulty and simplicity of the grand vows directly determined how strong one would be after becoming a Buddha. Ordinary grand vows are called minor grand vows. The more difficult ones are called major grand vows. The Bodhisattva would choose the difficulty of the grand vows and the number of grand vows based on their own wisdom. Most Bodhisattvas would choose minor grand vows. Those with some wisdom would challenge major grand vows. The most famous would be the 48 major grand vows that Amitabha Buddha made. He was undoubtedly the strongest person in ancient Buddhism. Clearly, this was Ing Zongtian's first time hearing such an explanation. He asked interestedly, what does this have to do with the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva? Emochen smiled and replied seriously, it has a lot to do with it. The Buddhists explain the grand vows as grand vows as grand vows. After understanding one's nature, they show compassion for all living beings. Then, they use a sincere and unwavering heart to make a wish to save all living beings. However, this is a Buddhist explanation. From an outsider's point of view, how could it be so mystical? The so-called grand wish should be some kind of wish power cultivation. The greater the wish, the greater the gift from the heaven and earth, and the stronger one's strength will be. If one's root of wisdom isn't strong enough, they won't be able to fulfill their great ambitions. They will be stuck at a bottleneck in cultivation. Upon hearing this, Ing Zongtian laughed and said, if your explanation was in a place where Buddhism thrives, they would definitely treat you as a heretic. However, I feel that it makes sense. It's just like the power of faith of the gods, except that the power of faith of the Buddhists is more mysterious. Emochen smiled and nodded. According to the ancient records, this Kittagarbha Bodhisattva had a root of wisdom. As a Bodhisattva, he could surpass many Buddhas. Originally, when he was preparing to become a Buddha, a great tribulation of the world happened. The immortal epoch was destroyed, and the Buddhist world was implicated. Countless Buddhas fell as a result. When he saw the ancient order of Buddhism, he immediately changed his great ambition. He swore that he would not become a Buddha until hell was empty. If hell is not empty, I swear not to become a Buddha. As Xiaochen mulled over these words, he entered deep thought. He seemed to have figured something out. The greatness of this great ambition is comparable to the 48 great ambitions of the Amitabha Buddha back then. Once he succeeds, his strength will be immeasurable. He might even become the Lord Buddha of the New World. Emochen continued her analysis, voicing her opinion. Given this, it looked like the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva was very ambitious. What he wanted was to become the Lord of the Buddha world, a true great world, outside of the abandoned world. When the ancient Buddhist world was destroyed, the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva entered hell, and made such a great ambition. He was really decisive. Emochen continued. Now that I understand all this, it is not hard to understand why the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva is after the sins of Big Brother Shao. It might be because of the words hell is not empty. Inspiration flashed in Xiaochen's mind. He revealed an expression of understanding. Emochen's rigorous speculation cleared up some of his original doubts. He was suddenly enlightened, and had figured everything out. Xiaochen said sullenly, I figured it out. The sins on me were left by the Qing emperor. Back then, The Qing Emperor also had a cultivation technique for absorbing sins. He must have gone to hell to collect the sins that originally existed. Naturally, the place with the most sins was hell. For the sake of cultivating the good and evil beneficence art, the Qing Emperor must have gone to hell. Given this, it looked like the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva and the Qing Emperor had a grudge long ago. The Qing Emperor was also very familiar with hell. Back then, the Qing Emperor took away a large number of sins from hell. However, the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's great ambition was to not become a Buddha until hell was empty. The Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva had to purify all the sins in hell before he could become a Buddha. However, a large portion of the sins in hell were on the Qing Emperor. Even if he was done, he would not be able to become a Buddha. He would have to cleanse the sins of the Qing Emperor as well. Back then, the Bloody Emperor's road might have been Xiao Chen's doing, wanting to force out all of Xiao Chen's sins. After hearing Xiao Chen's words, Chen smiled faintly and did not say anything else. On the other hand, Zongtian's horizons were greatly broadened, and he gasped in amazement. He looked at Chen and couldn't help but praise. I've long heard that Miss Mo is extraordinarily intelligent. You're proficient in the 4 arts. The 4 arts, medicine, divination, astrology, and so on. Today, I've finally seen it for myself. Without a vast amount of knowledge, no one else would be able to understand the cause and effect of the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's matter so clearly. Zongtian's words were sincere admiration, and he did not mean to be polite. Thank you for your praise, Senior. Chen was very happy to receive the praise of a prime. She smiled faintly to express her thanks. However, what made her even happier was solving this mystery for Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen said sullenly, "We absolutely cannot let him become a Buddha. Otherwise, given his character, neither of us will have a good ending." Xiao Chen did not want to care about the matters of the Buddhist realm. However, the existence of the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva already threatened his existence, so he had to do something about it. Zongtian sighed softly. Right now, the Kunlun realm is in a precarious situation. There is a demonic calamity ahead, which could descend at any moment. Then there is an ambitious and ruthless person like Emperor Forsaken. Now, there is the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, who is eyeing us covetously. After the old Thunder King left, the world will truly fall into chaos. The Kunlun realm's calamity is truly unavoidable. Xiao Chen's heart sank. Big brothering, is the demonic calamity really that severe? Zongtian's expression turned grave. He smiled bitterly and helplessly. It is very severe. Just the 18 demon monarchs are already too much to bear. The even stronger Dark Church has yet to appear. It is hard to be optimistic even if we want to. Even if we gather all the power of the Kunlun realm, our chances of victory are very slim. Furthermore, we are like a pile of loose sand now. The situation was very pessimistic. No wonder the Myriad Law Fiend Master was so grave 3 months ago. Is there no way to resolve this? She asked worriedly. The teacup fell heavily to the ground. Zongtian glanced at Xiao Chen and said, "Of course there is. As long as someone is as strong as the Thunder King or surpasses the Thunder King, they can rule the Kunlun realm. Then they can be like the Qing Emperor back then, turning the tide and fighting against the 18 demon monarchs alone. Little brother Xiao, I have confidence in you. You have never disappointed me before. This is the last time, and you will definitely not disappoint me." Xiao Chen revealed a rare seriousness on his face. He put down the teacup by his lips and said, "Without Big Brothering taking care of me in secret, I would have died many times already. Although I am not as sentimental as Big Brothering, I am someone who knows how to be grateful. I will definitely do my best to protect the Kunlun realm." A heroic spirit appeared in Zongtian's heart. He smiled and said, "You are still the same as before, not exaggerating. That's right. We cultivators only seek peace of mind. Even if we fight to the death, we will do our best. 2 days from now, I will give you a generous gift at the Dragon's Gates banquet." "You are most welcome." Xiao Chen did not overthink. Naturally, it would be for the best if Big Brothering could come. Following that, Zongtian started asking questions of Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen spoke without holding back, giving Zongtian some inspiration. Before leaving, Xiaochen instructed Ing Zongtian to help guard the sin in the Scarlet Graveyard. When he was strong enough, he would come and destroy it. Ing Zongtian knew that this matter was very important. He knew that he was duty-bound, so he did not hesitate to agree. Chapter 1480. After saying goodbye to Ing Zongtian, Xiaochen brought Emochen to the Scarlet Graveyard once more. As Xiaochen looked at the sky and the dense scarlet clouds that remained all year round, he frowned slightly, not knowing what to do. Sin was hard to get rid of. Aside from purifying it, it would be hard to find any other means to cleanse it. Unfortunately, the cultivators in the Kunlun realm who had fortuitous encounters and learned how to purify them would find it hard to purify such vast sin. The truly capable one was the Buddhist sect's Kitigarbha Bodhisattva. The Buddhists specialized in this in the first place. Furthermore, the Kitigarbha Bodhisattva was a peak-esteemed monk from the ancient Buddhist sections. This was really problematic. At his wits' end, Xiaochen could not think of a good solution. Even the prime Ing Zongtian could not do anything about it. What could Xiaochen do? Emochen, do you know how to get rid of this sin? Xiaochen asked softly as he looked at the scarlet clouds. Emochen shook her head. Even with her vast knowledge, she did not know how to get rid of this vast sin. However, she made a mental note to go back and search for ancient texts on sin to help Big Brother Xiao resolve this problem. Xiaochen had only asked casually. When he saw the situation, he said softly, "Let's go back." 2 days later, the Dragon's Gates banquet was held as scheduled. The venue was the plaza where the Dragon's Gates re-establishment ceremony was held. The guests were the same as before, and none of the Dragon's Gate elders were missing. The story was still the same. However, the Blue Dragon King was no longer the same as before. Hence, this world was no longer the same. Xiaochen still remembered the day of the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment. The various holy lands, both overtly and covertly, came to disrupt and obstruct the ceremony. On that day, the white-clad Blue Dragon King faced the mockery of 10-odd holy lands' first elders alone, nearly shutting down the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment ceremony. However, today the same scene and nearly the same people appeared. However, during the Dragon's Gate's banquet, these people greeted Xiaochen with smiles and congratulated him. The situation was completely reversed. Xiaochen was rather open-minded and did not mind too much. More or less, these sects had helped him during his great tribulation of wind and fire. There was no need to take the dispute seriously. After all, there was no feud. After noon that day, Xiaochen began to prepare for a lecture on the Tao. He was going to tell them everything he knew about the Tao. The Holy Lord, the clan leaders of the ancient clans, and many other people of virtue and prestige had all come for the same reason. Seeing that they were finally getting to the main topic, they all revealed joyful expressions and listened with anticipation. Xiaochen sat in the middle of the great hall. Emochen, Yu Bingyun, and the many Dragon's Gate doyens accompanied him. The chairs on the left and right sides of the room were occupied by important figures. There was the Heavenly Province Academy's Holy Lord, the Yinyang Utopia's Grotto Mistress, and many other patriarchs. Nearly all the major characters of the Heavenly Starry Ocean, who could hold their own, were here. After Xiaochen calmed his emotions for a while, he prepared to speak. I am just a beginner in the great Tao energy, and do not know much. I will only speak about what I know and what I comprehended. I hope that everyone will not be disappointed. The Blue Dragon King is too humble. You are the first cultivator to gain the Tao in the post-ancient era. You proved that the great Tao energy is not something of legend. That is already enough for you to be proud of. There is no need to be humble. The Heavenly Province Academy's Holy Lord smiled faintly as he spoke the truth, half flattering Xiaochen. Actually, this was the truth. Xiaochen was indeed just a beginner. However, compared to these holy lords, he was much stronger. Xiaochen did not bother with pleasantries. Then he started to speak about the Tao. However, just as he was about to speak, 3 figures suddenly appeared in the sky. Then they charged forward. Their strong auras and tyrannical auras overturned everything in their way. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Earlier, they were at the horizon. In the blink of an eye, 3 figures arrived uninvited and entered the great hall. The newcomers were the 3 giants of the deity Tao Union: Emperor Forsaken, the Dongyue Ghost Emperor, and the Heaven-Punishing Prime. Xiao Chen's heart sank. He felt slightly angry, but his expression did not change. However, the expressions of the many honored guests changed drastically. These three giants were all primes. This was especially so for Emperor Forsaken. He was now publicly acknowledged as the strongest person in the Kunlun realm. Senior Deity Sovereign. The honored guests seated in the chairs all stood up and greeted the Deity Sovereign. At this moment, the respect for the strong was also fear for Emperor Forsaken. The atmosphere immediately turned strange. Who could have imagined that the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment banquet would attract all three of the Deity Dao Union's primes? Emperor Forsaken exuded a strong presence. He had a faint smile on his face as he looked at Xiao Chun and said, "I came uninvited. Little brother Xiao Chun, I hope you don't mind." Xiao Chun retorted indifferently, "What if I mind? This place does not welcome anyone from the Deity Dao Union." Some people could be forgiven, but others could never be forgiven. The three before Xiao Chun were the latter. Xiao Chun drew a clear line in his heart, not willing to hide the disgust in his heart. The moment he spoke, the atmosphere turned tense. Emperor Forsaken smiled faintly and said, "Little brother Xiao Chun, why get angry? Isn't it a sermon? Can't we add 3 more chairs?" The heaven-punishing corpse god said coldly, "Brat, don't be ignorant. Do you really think that you are a major character on equal footing with us? It is your honor that the Deity Sovereign is giving you face." Xiao Chun smiled and said, "That is the honor of those dogs by his side, not me Xiao Chun." The heaven-punishing corpse god's face darkened. "You dare to scold me?" A berserk aura burst out of the heaven-punishing corpse god's body. The entire hall started shaking. An oppressive aura was unleashed, causing the guests to be startled. Everyone felt fear in their hearts. This was the rage of a prime. No one dared to endure it. "That's right. I am indeed scolding you." Xiao Chun smiled faintly, appearing calm and at ease. He only casually took a step forward and endured the other party's aura, not letting the Dragon's Gate's people endure it. Calm and unruffled, angry but not flustered. This was the current Xiao Chun. The smile on Emperor Forsaken's face did not fade. He stretched out his hand to block the heaven-punishing corpse god, who was preparing to attack. He said, "Little brother Xiao Chun, since you are not going to welcome us, let's just leave. However, before we leave, there is a debt that we need to settle." The smile on Emperor Forsaken's face disappeared. He was finally going to state the purpose of this trip. "There are countless debts between us. If you really want to settle them, can you finish them?" Xiao Chun revealed a cold smile. Although he was no match for a prime now, there was no need to be too afraid. At the very most, he would just burn indiscriminately. No one would benefit from that. There was no need to be polite to the other party. Furthermore, the other party personally coming to the Dragon's Gate's banquet was already the greatest impoliteness to Xiao Chun. Emperor Forsaken ignored the heaven-punishing corpse god. He continued, "The Blue Dragon King has always been a bold person. Could it be that you do not want to admit it? Let me ask you this. Do you acknowledge the identity of the Shadowless Saber Sovereign?" Xiao Chun's heart sank. He did not know what the other party was thinking, so he remained silent. "If you don't say anything, I'll take it that you admit it. Back then, you used the identity of the Shadowless Saber Sovereign to severely injure the Divine Sun. It is time to settle this debt properly today." When Xiao Chun heard that, he smiled coldly in his heart. "That's right. The Shadowless Saber Sovereign is indeed me. I was also the one who injured Diwuk. However, that is because he is not as skilled. However, if you want to cause trouble, you will have an excuse. Let me ask you this. Emperor Forsaken, what exactly do you want? If you have something to say, just say it. There is no need to beat around the bush and make things so complicated." The other party was here to cause trouble in the first place. He would not give up until he achieved his goal. The so-called settling debts was just an excuse. Emperor Forsaken said sullenly, "This emperor is not as unbearable as you think. Back then, you chopped down the Divine Sun. Today, you have to receive 3 palm strikes from me. Then this debt will be written off." The moment Emperor Forsaken said that, the crowd burst into an uproar. Was Emperor Forsaken not being too much of a bully? After all, he was the strongest person of the Kunlun realm, someone who had been famous for a long time. Yet he wanted a junior to receive 3 palm strikes from him. Divine Sovereign, isn't this a little overboard? The grudges of youngsters. Since the Divine Son is safe and sound, let's just forget about it. The Heavenly Province Academy's Holy Lord could not stand by and watch, so he advised. Interesting. I can explain the Tao to you all, but you cannot receive 3 palm strikes from the Divine Sovereign? Since you are advising, how about you receive 3 palm strikes from the Divine Sovereign? The Dongyue Ghost Emperor, who had been silent all this while, suddenly spoke, immediately stopping the Heavenly Province Academy's Holy Lord from speaking. The remaining people feared the other party's strength. Even though they wanted to advise, they did not dare to say anything. The tyrannical 3 giants of the deity Dao Union ruined the atmosphere of a proper banquet. Everyone felt angry, but did not dare to say anything. Chapter 1481. Receive 3 moves from you? Why should I receive 3 moves from you? Xiaochen did not fall for it, remaining extremely calm. Did Xiaochen really think that Xiaochen was a hothead? Thinking that he was unrivaled just because he was strong? Xiaochen was very clear on the distance between him and Emperor Forsaken. The other party was the strongest prime and also the strongest person in the Kunlun realm. An unrivaled existence in the Kunlun realm. Emperor Forsaken, how about I receive 3 moves from you? Outside the hall, Zongtian arrived late with his first senior sister. However, he finally dared to arrive at this crucial moment. Another supreme martial artist had arrived. Zongtian smiled at Xiaochen and walked in with his back to the sunlight. Emperor Forsaken did not feel surprised. He smiled faintly and said, "You came at the right time." However, Zongtian, he has to receive these 3 palm strikes. Why? Emperor Forsaken, can you not be so tyrannical? Someone among the Dragon's Gate elders said in dissatisfaction. Suddenly, Emperor Forsaken guffawed endlessly. Then he said indifferently, "It looks like I have been good-tempered for too long. Why? Just because I am the strongest person in the Kunlun realm is enough." Right after Emperor Forsaken spoke, a divine light suddenly burst out of his body. Then he shook the entire hall, instantly raising it to the ground. Pusai. Pusai. Half of the cultivators present vomited a mouthful of blood. Before this strong divine light, they vomited blood and were sent flying. After taking a few steps back, they managed to stabilize their footing and stabilize their bodies. Only a small number of people relied on their own strength to move back, and did not suffer any injuries. However, they still felt fear in their hearts. After they stabilized themselves, they all moved back, as they felt killing chi from Emperor Forsaken. Xiaochen blocked this divine light with all his might, protecting the Dragon's Gate elders. He felt his chi and blood surge. The Dragon's Gate elders took this opportunity to retreat, not daring to linger. An enraged Emperor Forsaken was truly too frightening. A single beam of divine light had forced back so many people. The smile on Emperor Forsaken's face did not diminish. He said softly, "I really miss the days when I was young. Back then, I didn't have any scruples. I showed off my abilities and killed whenever I wanted. But when you become a supreme being or a deity emperor, you're always overcautious and indecisive. Is that necessary? That old fart, the Thunder King, died long ago on the Kunlun Road. Why should I be so apprehensive? Indeed, 100 years, 200 years, or 1,000 years. Emperor Forsaken hadn't really made a move yet, because the existence of the Thunder King had suppressed him for too long. Thinking back to the past, when he was young, he was also full of vigor, having his own golden years. There had been battles where swords and blades dripped with blood. Battles where life and death hung in the balance. He didn't get to where he was today by living like a prince. It was because of his unparalleled talent and his decisiveness in killing. Beneath every throne were piles of corpses and boundless blood. Naturally, the deity race's supreme throne was no exception. Why did the Holy Lord present stand up and greet him respectfully the moment they saw him? Of course, it was because of Xiaochen's strength. It was because he had seen how cold-blooded and emotionless this deity emperor was when he was young. It was not just because of the deity emperor's empty title. As Xiao Chun spoke, he suddenly threw a palm strike at Xiao Chun. Before Xiao Chun could prepare, this palm strike struck him, sending him flying into the air and vomiting a large mouthful of blood. Too weak. Xiao Chun, you are still not strong enough. I only used 50% of my strength in this palm strike, and you can't even see my shadow. Emperor Forsaken remained standing where he was, a smile on his face. It was like he had never moved at all, and had always been there. Xiao Chun knelt on one knee and looked at Emperor Forsaken. A trace of shock flashed in his eyes. Xiao Chun really could not see Xiao Chun at all. He did not even know how he attacked. Furthermore, the force was unbelievably strong. If Xiao Chun possessed great Dao energy and negated most of the force, this palm strike would have smashed him to death. The strong are revered in the world. I like to reason with people. However, there are times when I do not like to do so, such as now. An aura that looked down on the world spread out from Emperor Forsaken's body, putting immense pressure on everyone. You have to be clear about who is speaking to you. It is me, Emperor Forsaken. I am not begging you to receive 3 moves from me. This is an order that you cannot defy. A faint sound of wind appeared. Emperor Forsaken's second palm strike arrived. This time, Xiao Chun did not relax at all. In the time it took for a spark to fly, he condensed the Taiji Yin-Yang flame diagram in front of him. The instant the Taiji Yin-Yang flame diagram formed, it broke before it could fully form. Xiao Chun's heart sank. Without much time to think, he executed the fish dragon art. Xiao Chun's body was like a fish in water, changing in thousands of ways. He was like a fish in water, nimble and ever-changing, flickering endlessly. In that instant, thousands of afterimages appeared, real and fake, real and fake. No one could tell them apart. Emperor Forsaken's eyes lit up. He smiled and said, "Interesting. You do have some strength. However, that is all." In Xiao Chun's eyes, Emperor Forsaken's palm strike suddenly became infinitely large, airtight. There was nowhere for him to escape to. Bang! After being struck again, Xiao Chun's body soared into the air and went flying back. Xiao Chun was a fish. It was like he was in the sea. However, Emperor Forsaken's palm strike directly overturned the entire sea. Emperor Forsaken used absolute strength to knock Xiao Chun, who was more skilled, into the air. Tyrannical. This was true tyranny. Not bad at all. Xiao Chun, you can be proud. I already used 70% of my strength in this palm strike. It has been many years since I used such strength. I am really not used to it. Emperor Forsaken appeared where he was again. As he watched Xiao Chun fly back, he did not continue attacking. Emperor Forsaken, don't go overboard. Unexpectedly, Emperor Forsaken sent out palm strike after palm strike. A murderous intent flashed on Yingzhongtian's face. Just as Xiao Chun was about to step forward, the Dongyue Ghost Emperor and the heaven-punishing corpse god blocked him with cold smiles. Don't block him. Let him come over. Emperor Forsaken casually turned around and looked at Yingzhongtian. What's wrong? Are you sure you want to receive 3 palm strikes from me? Against you, I won't be as lenient as I am now. As a prime, you should be very clear on my strength. If you had another 100 years, perhaps you might be able to fight me to a draw. However, right now, you really cannot receive 3 palm strikes from me at full power. The rash Yingzhongtian calmed down. Emperor Forsaken was right. If the other party used his full power, the first palm strike could defeat Xiao Chun. The second palm strike could severely injure Xiao Chun. As for the third palm strike, Xiao Chun might not be able to receive it. This was not a true duel. Xiao Chun had to receive the other party's moves. The one who passively received the attacks would be at a disadvantage. Furthermore, Emperor Forsaken's strength was already on par with the Thunder King's in the first place, only slightly weaker. Xiao Chun was indeed much stronger than Xiao Chun. He definitely lived up to his reputation as the strongest person of the Kunlun realm. Even so, Xiao Chun had to receive it. This was his responsibility as a big brother. After thinking for a while, Yingzhongtian made his decision. He said calmly, "I'm sure. There is one more palm strike. I'll receive it." However, before Xiao Chun finished speaking, a resonant voice interrupted him. Xiao Chun, who had been smashed into the rubble, pushed aside everything in his way and vomited a mouthful of blood. Xiaochen revealed a determined expression as he looked calmly at Emperor Forsaken, showing neither joy nor sorrow. Xiaochen. Ing Zongtian could not help feeling anxious. How could Xiaochen endure Emperor Forsaken's third palm strike in his current state? An expression of admiration flashed in Emperor Forsaken's eyes. He smiled and said, "You have ambition and a good mental state. For you to be able to defeat Wuk, it is not as simple as luck." With one glance, Emperor Forsaken could tell that Xiaochen's mental state had already recovered its calm, entering a state of combat. Given Xiaochen's current state, he might really be able to receive the first palm strike's might. Whoosh! Whoosh! Just at this moment, 3 figures descended from the sky. They were the Bright Moon Empress, the Myriad Law Fiend Master, and the Cyclic Astral Lord, who originally did not intend to show themselves. When the 3 giants of the deity Dao Union appeared, these 3 primes of the heavenly starry ocean sensed it and had been observing silently. Due to various reasons, they originally did not want to show themselves. Now they had no choice but to do so. Deity Sovereign, there is no need to use the third palm strike. Why the need to compete with the junior? The might of 2 palm strikes is already sufficient to help the Divine Sun vent his anger. The Cyclic Astral Lord lowered his stance and advised. The Bright Moon Empress also said, "Big brother Qitian, it is already like this. Let's just forget about it. It is not easy for you to personally come to the heavenly starry ocean. Come to my lunar palace and sit for a while." The Myriad Law Fiend Master sighed softly and said, "Deity Sovereign, when we were young, we had some friendship. Let's just forget about the third palm strike." The 3 primes respected Emperor Forsaken's strength. They advised him gently, giving him a way out of this embarrassing situation, hoping that he would stop here. However, if Xiaochen really did not give any face, no matter how strong the deity sovereign was, the 3 primes would step forward. There was a saying, "After all is said and done, it is time to meet swords and sabers." Emperor Forsaken showed an uncertain expression. It was impossible to tell whether he was happy, angry, sad, or joyful. No one knew what he was thinking. Would he use the third palm strike or not? Everyone looked anxiously at Emperor Forsaken, the strongest prime of the Kunlun realm, waiting for his decision. However, the development of the matter seemed somewhat unexpected. It seemed like no one had considered Xiaochen's thoughts. Chapter 1482. After a moment of silence, Emperor Forsaken finally opened his mouth and said, "All right, since so many of my friends have advised me, then I won't make a move. This debt can be considered written off." Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Emperor Forsaken was invincible. Unless it was a crucial moment, no one was willing to fight with him. Being able to obtain such a result was also a fluke. Write it off. Emperor Forsaken, I have never thought of writing things off with you. Xiaochen, who was seriously injured and had a pale complexion, suddenly opened his mouth and said those words. In an instant, everyone's hearts were in their throats again. What was Xiaochen trying to do? Big brother Xiao. Chen felt very anxious as she sent a voice projection to Xiaochen, hoping that he would not act rashly. "Don't worry, I have my own plans." Xiaochen replied casually. However, he did not stop. Instead, he took another step forward. Emperor Forsaken's face darkened as he said indifferently, "Looks like I still have to make my move." "Xiaochen, don't be rash." Everyone quickly tried to dissuade Xiaochen, not wanting him to do anything drastic. Xiaochen remained very calm. He said calmly, "I was not rash. I am very clear on what I am doing. The debt between me and the deity Dao Union will not be written off. He, the heaven-abandoning deity sovereign, will not really stop because of this. Today, you can find an excuse for me to injure the Divine Sun. Tomorrow, you can find an excuse for me to kill the Divine Sun. The day after tomorrow, you can come up with a new excuse. As long as you have an excuse, you can make me receive 3 palm strikes and come and go as you please." Xiaochen's words were like a clap of thunder on the flat ground, powerful and resonant, shaking people's hearts. The truth revealed in his words was a little sad, but in a world where the strong were respected, Xiaochen's words were not wrong at all. Although the possibility was not high, As long as Emperor Forsaken was the strongest in Kunlun, he could find trouble with Xiao Chun at any time, regardless of any rules. This is a sad and cruel fact. It wasn't that many people hadn't thought of this, but they all chose to ignore it. They just wanted to send away the god of plague, Emperor Forsaken, as soon as possible. Although you seem to make a lot of sense, there are many places in this world where I can come and go as I please. There are also places that I can't go casually. Unfortunately, your dragon sect is not one of them. Emperor Forsaken's expression did not change. He was calm and unruffled as he spoke in an incomparably overbearing manner. The corner of Xiao Chen's mouth curled into a mocking smile as he sneered. Is that so? Either you kill me today, or you can forget about walking out of the Dragon Gate. Emperor Forsaken laughed. Interesting. If I want to leave, can you stop me? I can't stop him, but I don't mind taking a trip to the God realm. The blade in my hand doesn't mind slaughtering the people of the realm of the gods. As long as I want to, in 100 years or 1,000 years, your god race will sooner or later be exterminated by me. Xiao Chen's gaze turned gloomy as he enunciated every word coldly and emotionlessly. Emperor Forsaken's heart skipped a beat. The image of Xiao Chen hiding in a different place after every 1,000 people he killed appeared in his mind. If Xiao Chen continued killing for 100 years or 1,000 years, just thinking about it made one tremble in fear. Not just anyone could threaten Emperor Forsaken like this. However, Xiao Chen could. If he wanted to hide his identity, Emperor Forsaken would not be able to discover him. The cold wind whistled, and everyone felt a chill hit them, causing their bodies to feel cold for no reason. Do you really want to die that much? Emperor Forsaken's aura strengthened continuously, pressing down on Xiao Chen. Heavy clouds churned in the sky. It looked like the sky was sinking. With every moment it sank, the pressure on Xiao Chen increased. It was like a volcano about to erupt. Everyone felt a horrifying energy accumulating in the place. Once it erupted, it would unleash an earth-shattering energy. Who is not afraid of death? Who does not love life? If I were not at a dead end, I would not have to do this. Like now, you can slap my face whenever you want. What is the point of me, Xiao Chen, living? A warrior could be killed, but not humiliated. Everyone had their pride. Xiao Chen considered himself a martial artist. Before the heavenly Tao, he was as insignificant as an ant. However, even a lowly existence had its own pride. Emperor Forsaken clearly saw Xiao Chen's rise today, and purposely came to slap his face. Furthermore, it was clear that Emperor Forsaken had succeeded. With 2 effortless palm strikes, Xiao Chen could not resist at all. At the banquet of the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment, these 2 palm strikes were like 2 resounding slaps, ruthlessly slapping Xiao Chen, who was about to preach the Tao. The various primes stepped forward to plead for leniency, giving Emperor Forsaken face once again. They appeared amiable, but in reality, they only increased the might of the slap. Was it interesting? To Emperor Forsaken, of course, it was interesting. How could it be boring to teach one how to be a person, slap one's face, then put on a humble appearance and leave elegantly? However, it was really boring. To Xiao Chen, it was not interesting at all. You can play with me, but don't play with me. If it were in the past, the difference between us would be too great, like an ant and an elephant. An ant challenging an elephant was seeking its own death, so Xiao Chen had no choice but to accept it. However, it was different now. Although there was a difference between Xiao Chen and Emperor Forsaken, it was not as exaggerated as the difference between an ant and an elephant. Xiao Chen's pride would not allow him to be humiliated by others with such a difference. Just this once, I will not accept it. Xiao Chen's expression remained calm as he said indifferently, "You are the one who forced me. This is not what I asked for or what I wanted. However, everyone has their own principles and bottom line. I would rather pay with my life." This fellow, Emperor Forsaken, clenched his fist tightly, cracking his knuckles. Was he forcing him to kill someone? However, he could not kill Xiao Chen now. The group of primes already gave him sufficient face. If he forcefully made a move, both sides would end up severely injured. No one would be able to escape. However, if he did not kill Xiao Chen, could it be that he had to apologize to this fellow? The top prime of the Kunlun realm fell into a dilemma, speechless for a while. When the crowd saw this scene, they could not help feeling shocked. Under the pressure of Emperor Forsaken's strong aura, Xiaochen was actually able to remain so resilient, forcing Emperor Forsaken into speechlessness. Immediately, everyone whispered to each other. As they looked at Emperor Forsaken, they could not help revealing playful expressions. Even the top prime of the Kunlun realm was not omnipotent. This is great. This is too much. Let's see how you deal with this. What exactly do you want? After the stalemate lasted for a long time, Emperor Forsaken finally chose to take a step back. His aura still made it difficult for everyone to breathe. The pressure was like a mountain. However, Emperor Forsaken's tone was clearly weaker than before. Xiaochen said calmly, "It's very simple. Just send out another palm strike. No matter what the result of this palm strike is, you will not be able to escape. No matter what the result is, from today onwards, you are not allowed to use such lousy excuses to attack me. I don't mind you attacking me. If you want to kill me, just have a fair fight. In the future, if I want to kill you, it will definitely be a fair fight. It will not be like today. I do not ask for much. I only want one word. Respect." Xiaochen's white robes fluttered in the wind. His fine black hair flowed like a waterfall, fluttering about wantonly. No one expected Xiaochen's final request to be so simple. Xiaochen's request was so simple, just respect. I do not want you to do anything. I just want you to send out a third palm strike. From today onwards, do not look down on me. Whoosh! Xiaochen suddenly drew the lunar shadow saber, giving off a gentle glow. At the same time, an oath stone flew out of the universe ring. The oath stone spun rapidly as it flew towards Emperor Forsaken. Whoosh! 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 Countless pairs of eyes looked at Emperor Forsaken, at the strongest expert of the Kunlun realm. Even experts like the Cyclic Astral Lord, the Bright Moon Empress, and the Myriad Law Fiend Master were no exception. The meaning in their gazes was not just to see how Xiaochen would decide. Instead, it was a kind of pressure. It was a silent declaration that although Emperor Forsaken was strong, he had to send out a third palm strike today. Emperor Forsaken stretched out his hand, and the oath stone spun around in his palm. It gave off a strong wind that made his long hair flutter. When Emperor Forsaken raised his head and looked at the other party, he had a misconception for some reason. His aura clearly suppressed Xiaochen's. However, no matter how he looked at it, the other party was looking down on him. Chapter 1483. Emperor Forsaken revealed a bitter smile. Then, he grabbed the oath stone and said, "I, Qitian, in the name of the Divine Sovereign, swear to the heavens that I will send out another palm strike. After this palm strike, I will absolutely not use any excuse to attack anyone from the Dragon's Gate." Whoosh! The oath stone turned into a boundless light and entered Emperor Forsaken's body. Then, he quickly sent out another palm strike at lightning speed. This palm strike was incredibly fast. The number of people who could see it clearly could be counted on two hands. The heavy clouds in the sky turned golden with a whoosh, spreading out for 5,000 kilometers around. Instantly, golden light burst forth for 5,000 kilometers around, dazzling and resplendent. It was not over yet. The golden clouds suddenly gathered into a huge statue of a deity. That statue was dazzling and smooth like it was made of gold. The clouds in the sky vanished. The sun, moon, and stars were no longer obstructed, appearing before everyone's eyes. It was like one could pluck the stars just by stretching out one's hand. The huge statue of a deity exuded a supreme might, creating a misconception. It was like it had descended from the darkest depths of the universe, sending down a divine punishment. Starry Heaven's divine palm. Qitian is really not showing any mercy this time. When Zongtian saw this scene, his heart sank, and he frowned heavily. The huge statue followed Emperor Forsaken, and sent out a palm strike at Xiaochen as well. Whoosh! Before the palm strike arrived, the palm wind already arrived. The strong pressure caused space to distort. Many people who could not dodge in time felt their skin tear, and blood oozed out. Horror flashed in their eyes. Then, with a loud boom, they were all sent flying far away. Xiaochen narrowed his eyes. He could not block this palm strike at all. Even if it was a dermic world, it would shatter. This was a palm strike that Emperor Forsaken did not show any mercy. A palm strike with 100% of his power. Among the many primes present, no one dared to say that they could receive this palm strike without getting injured, let alone Xiao Chun. If Xiao Chun received it head-on, he would definitely die. There was only one way to break this palm strike. The state of cycle, reversing time and space, returning to the past. Back to the moment when Emperor Forsaken grabbed the Oath Stone. Otherwise he wouldn't have stood a chance. It went without saying how difficult it was to execute the Samsara chop in front of Emperor Forsaken. But if he wanted to live, this was the only way. Fight! In his sea of consciousness, the reincarnation heart shone brightly and continuously rotated. Samsara power filled Xiao Chen's body. Massacre, destruction, pain, grief, despair, and death. All kinds of concepts turned into vast illusions that flashed around Xiao Chen. Just as that palm was about to touch Xiao Chen roared furiously and unleashed his state of cycle. Xiao Chen swung the transcendent divine weapon, the lunar shadow saber, executing the cycle chop. Then he leaped up bravely. Pucci. Endless resistance assaulted him. Xiao Chen felt extreme pain. The past had already happened. Reversing space-time and traveling to the past faced greater resistance than traveling to the future. The resistance from space-time pressed down on Xiao Chen's physical body. His bones crackled. The sound of bones shattering. How difficult. I can't cross it at all. Emperor Forsaken's existence made the pressure from space-time even stronger. Xiao Chen felt that his body might shatter in the instant he crossed. In reality, Emperor Forsaken's palm strike was already only 2 centimeters away from Xiao Chen. In the next moment, it would land on Xiao Chen's chest. Given the might of this palm strike, it was possible that Xiao Chen would die without a complete corpse, falling on the spot. The expressions of Ying Zongtian and the others changed dramatically, their hearts pounding. Dao. Just at the crucial moment, the light of the great Dao appeared behind Xiao Chen. Then it surrounded the lunar shadow saber. This great Dao energy came from the saber Dao in the first place. When it infused into the lunar shadow saber, its might would multiply. Ying Zongtian's heart sank. What is Xiao Chen trying to do? Trying to perish together with Emperor Forsaken? This is too naive. Although this saber strike is strong, it will only severely injure Emperor Forsaken at best. It will not deal a fatal blow. The expressions of the Bright Moon Empress and the others also changed drastically at this moment. Everyone who could clearly see the trajectory of Emperor Forsaken's attack felt their hearts in their throats. They simply could not bear to watch. Boom! However, what happened in the next moment exceeded everyone's expectations. The might of Emperor Forsaken's palm strike suddenly weakened. The light of the great Dao on Xiao Chen's body vanished. The palm wind landed on Xiao Chen's chest and knocked him into the air. Xiao Chen's internal organs instantly ruptured. After he fell to the ground, he slid back 1 kilometer. His complexion paled, drained of blood. Xiao Chen vomited a mouthful of blood. He stabbed the saber in his right hand into the ground and said sullenly, "Many thanks to Emperor Forsaken for teaching me." How can this be? Upon seeing this scene, everyone was in disbelief. To think that Xiao Chen did not die. Although Xiao Chen was in a sorry state, severely injured and weak, he managed to receive Emperor Forsaken's full power palm strike. What exactly happened? For the might of Emperor Forsaken's palm strike to decrease by half? Whoosh! 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 Countless gazes landed on the heaven-abandoning deity sovereign, thinking that he had shown mercy. However, when these gazes landed on Emperor Forsaken's face, they saw a faint saber wound on the smooth right side of Emperor Forsaken's face. Blood seeped out of it. A saber wound? When did Emperor Forsaken get struck by this saber? Why did I not see it? One flew back 1 kilometer, finding it difficult to even stand up. The other had a flourishing aura with only a faint saber wound on his face. The victor of this palm strike and who won were easy to determine. However, the victorious Emperor Forsaken showed an incredibly sullen expression, looking even more unsightly than the injured Xiao Chun. Emperor Forsaken showed a sullen expression. not saying a word as he quickly left this place with his hands behind his back. I will abide by my oath. From today on, I will give you and the people of the Dragon's Gate the respect you deserve. These emotionless words came from Emperor Forsaken's mouth. No one could understand why he was in such a bad mood. The Dongyue Ghost Emperor and the Heaven-Punishing Corpse God felt confused. However, when they saw Emperor Forsaken leave, they could not remain here any longer, so they quickly followed. 500 kilometers away, above the ocean, the three giants of the deity Dao Union looked at the distant heavenly star island without saying a word. Qitian, what's with that palm strike earlier? Why did its might suddenly weaken at the end? The Dongyue Ghost Emperor could not help asking. Unable to understand. The Heaven-Punishing Corpse God could not understand as well. He said calmly, I can tell that you did not weaken it on purpose. Instead, you suddenly weakened it in a rush. Such a last-minute change in moves is a great taboo for the attacker. The backlash from the palm strike is not a good feeling. Emperor Forsaken's expression turned sullen. He said indifferently, If I say that I do not know why either, would you believe me? The moment Xiaochen said that, the Heaven-Punishing Corpse God and the Dongyue Ghost Emperor showed expressions of disbelief. That's impossible. As the person involved, how could you not know why your palm strike weakened? The Heaven-Punishing Corpse God retorted loudly, not believing Xiaochen at all. Emperor Forsaken stretched out his hand and touched the wound on his face. As he looked at the blood on his fingertips, he asked indifferently, What's impossible about that? Do the two of you know how I got that wound on my face? When the Dongyue Ghost Emperor and the Heaven-Punishing Corpse God heard that, they did not know what to say. Indeed, they did not see how the wound on the Heaven-Punishing Corpse God's face came about. It was clearly a saber wound. However, they really did not see how Xiaochen had drawn his saber. How many years had it been since Emperor Forsaken was injured? How many years had it been since he had seen his own blood? As Emperor Forsaken looked at the blood on his fingertips, he felt very emotional. He remained silent for a long time. There was always someone better. This Kunlun realm was just an abandoned land. Xiaochen had no idea what the true great world was like. The phrase frog in a well was used to describe him. Should we change the plan? The Dongyue Ghost Emperor asked cautiously. Emperor Forsaken flicked his finger to get rid of the blood on his fingertips. Then he said, We will not change it. The three of us do not need to return. We will just watch here and wait for him to come out. I believe that when he comes out, he will definitely head in the direction of the Blue Dragon Palace. The original plan was for Emperor Forsaken to come here to deal a blow to Xiaochen and humiliate Xiaochen. To let Xiaochen know that there was always someone better, and that he was not strong enough. After being humiliated, for the sake of raising his strength, Xiaochen would definitely head to the Blue Dragon Palace. Emperor Forsaken was an ambitious and ruthless person. Naturally, he would not just come over to humiliate Xiaochen. Emperor Forsaken could not wait. He wanted to use practical actions to speed up Xiaochen's trip to the Blue Dragon Palace. However, it looked like the one who was truly humiliated and dealt a blow was not Xiaochen but himself. Chapter 1484. When Emperor Forsaken said that the three of them were not going to leave, and were going to stay here and guard the place, Emperor Forsaken was stunned. A strange glint flashed across the Dongyue Ghost Emperor's eyes. After concealing it carefully, he said, We're going to stand guard here? Wasn't the plan to just send experts to guard this place? Who do we think we are? Do we need to personally guard this place? The Heaven-Punishing Corpse God frowned and said, Ghost Monarch, your way of thinking is not good. However, the current Xiaochen cannot be underestimated. Sending someone else would not be enough. No, I still have something to do. I need to go back. The Dongyue Ghost Emperor explained. Then he looked at Emperor Forsaken and said, Qitian, I'll go back first. If Xiaochen does anything, I'll meet you at the Blue Dragon Palace. What do you think? Emperor Forsaken pondered for a while and then said, What's so urgent? Isn't it the same if you're here? You can also send a message to your subordinates, right? The Dongyue Ghost Emperor smiled. It's not a big deal. but I have to make a trip myself. I'm sorry. When Emperor Forsaken saw the situation, he did not question further or force the issue. He said casually, "Do as you see fit. In any case, the secrets of the Blue Dragon Palace will definitely allow us to break through our shackles and leave the Kunlun realm. I know. Once I have news, I will immediately rush to the Blue Dragon Palace to meet up with you." After saying that, the Ghost Emperor turned into a beam of light and left quickly. The heaven-punishing corpse god looked in the direction the Dongyue Ghost Emperor left and asked in confusion, "What's so urgent? As a prime, you don't interfere with the management of the sect. Why would you need to deal with something personally?" Emperor Forsaken let out a meaningful laugh and said, "Xingtian, I'm afraid you don't know, but I received news 3 days ago. He had a confrontation with Xiao Chun in the ghost domain, and they almost got into a fight. It was only after Ing Zongtian arrived that the matter was left unsettled. Why didn't he tell us about this?" The heaven-punishing corpse god's expression changed slightly, feeling somewhat angry. He probed, "Could it be a small matter? That's why I did not say it." Emperor Forsaken said indifferently, "At first, I thought it was just a small matter. However, after some investigation, I found something interesting." "What is it?" "Zhuangjinghe. Do you know this person?" Of course, Xingtian did not know this Zhuangjinghe. So, Emperor Forsaken told him about this person's origins and some of his deeds on Heavenly Star Island. Zhuangjinghe's matters in the sea region around Heavenly Star Island were easy to investigate. With the deity sovereign's means, it would not be difficult at all. Xidigarba. The heaven-punishing corpse god immediately understood. Zhuangjinghe did not know, but the Xidigarba Bodhisattva, who was connected to Zhuangjinghe, did. He left in a hurry. Is he trying to collude with the Xidigarba Bodhisattva? The heaven-punishing corpse god asked angrily. Emperor Forsaken shook his head. "I'm not sure. We still don't know what kind of existence Xidigarba Bodhisattva is. However, knowing one thing is enough. The ghost monarch is hiding something from us. Furthermore, it is not a small matter." "What should we do then?" Clearly, the heaven-punishing corpse god did not understand these little schemes. Emperor Forsaken smiled coldly and said, "He is not qualified to play tricks with me. If everything is just a guess, then it would be fine. If it is true, humph. I have plenty of ways to deal with him." The heaven-punishing corpse god's heart skipped a beat. He said sullenly, "Qitian, I did not play any tricks with you. I have always been a straightforward person, and admire your strength. When we worked together, we always treated each other sincerely." "I know that. Otherwise, I would not be telling you about this," Emperor Forsaken continued. "Let me tell you one more thing. Where did the wound on my face come from?" The heaven-punishing corpse god felt startled. It turned out that Qitian knew how this wound came about, but was unwilling to tell the ghost monarch. If I guessed right, Xiaochen comprehended the legendary state of cycle. He can already reverse time and space, the past and the future, traveling through the cycle of cycles. Emperor Forsaken casually explained Xiaochen's ability. This fellow is a little too horrifying." The heaven-punishing corpse god thought about it and trembled in fear. Emperor Forsaken smiled and said, "There is no need to be too nervous. The state of cycle is extremely difficult to cultivate. Furthermore, the state of cycle is not the state of time, after all. He has only grasped a little of it. Given our strength, it will not be difficult to break it." After saying that, Xiaochen told the heaven-punishing corpse god how to deal with this move. When the heaven-punishing corpse god heard that, he revealed an expression of understanding. At the same time, he felt somewhat fortunate that the Dongyue Ghost Emperor did not know about it yet. If the heaven-punishing corpse god ran into Xiaochen, he might suffer a great loss. With this thought, the heaven-punishing corpse god could not help marveling at the brilliance of Emperor Forsaken's methods. When necessary, he could use this to kill with a borrowed knife. However, that brat Xiao Chun is very skilled at hiding himself. I'm afraid that even if we keep watching, we might not be able to find him." Emperor Forsaken revealed a worried expression and said, "There is no need for you to ask too much about this. I have my ways of finding out where he is." The two's conversation ended. On the other side, the Dongyue Ghost Emperor had no idea that he had already aroused the God Emperor's vigilance. Hence, he was currently rushing to the Ghost Domain. Half a day later, the Ghost Emperor rushed to the Yellow Springs Hell at his fastest speed, and met with the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva again. After explaining his purpose, the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva said, "You have not done what you promised me." The Dongyue Ghost Emperor's face sank. He said coldly, "Do you think that Ingzongtian is that easy to deal with? How could I possibly think of a solution in 2 or 3 days? I will definitely do what I promised you. However, you have to help me. The Blue Dragon Palace concerns the secret of the Qing Emperor's rise. Xiaoqin will be entering it soon. This is a rare opportunity." At the mention of the Qing Emperor, the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva's expression changed slightly. He looked at the Dongyue Ghost Emperor and asked, "Who told you that?" The Ghost Emperor smiled coldly in his heart. It looks like this old fellow was truly afraid of the Qing Emperor back then. Otherwise, the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva would not have shown such an expression just because of a title. The Dongyue Ghost Emperor did not speak bluntly. "If I do not obtain any benefits and Xiaoqin becomes the second Qing Emperor, your outcome will be the most miserable. You dare to threaten me?" The Kittagarbha Bodhisattva snorted coldly when he heard this. Then he exuded a Buddhist might. His eyes widened like the eyes of a Buddha, exuding might without being angry. The Ghost Emperor's heart sank. This Kittagarbha Bodhisattva's strength seemed to have improved significantly compared to half a year ago. It was hard to imagine how strong the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva was at his peak. "It is not a threat. Right now we are in the same boat. If I become stronger, it will be easier for me to help you refine the sins in Meteor Trail City." When the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva heard this, he scattered his Buddhist might and remained silent. After a long time, he finally made his decision. "All right, I promise you. How do you want me to help you?" The Ghost Emperor revealed a smile on his face. "I want you to come with me to the Blue Dragon Palace. At that time, you and I will work together, one in the open and one in the dark. After that, we will act according to the situation. Unless it is absolutely necessary, do not fall out with the God Sovereign." When the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva heard this, he hesitated for a long time. Right now, his strength had not recovered to its peak yet. He was not willing to get involved in this matter. The Kittagarbha Bodhisattva was very ambitious. He did not want to fall in the Blue Dragon Palace. If anything went wrong, he would regret it for life. The Kittagarbha Bodhisattva was not in a rush to agree. He changed the topic and said, "Let me ask you something. How strong is Xiaoqin now?" The Ghost Emperor answered honestly, "He should be unrivaled under Prime. In a one-on-one fight with someone like the 3 Holy Masters, it would be very difficult to defeat him." Xiaoqin received 3 palm strikes from the God Sovereign. Not only did he not die, but he even injured Emperor Forsaken. "All right, I promise you. Remember your promise." When the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva heard this, he quickly made his decision. This surprised the Ghost Emperor. However, after thinking about it, the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva understood. This Kittagarbha Bodhisattva was afraid that Xiaoqin would become the second Qing Emperor. How strong was the Qing Emperor back then for the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva to fear him so? The secrets of the Blue Dragon Palace piqued the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva's interest. He was not willing to be someone else's subordinate and be at the mercy of Emperor Forsaken. "It is settled then. When Qitian sends news, I will head to the Blue Dragon Palace with you." Chapter 1485. On Heavenly Star Island, after Emperor Forsaken left, the other honored guests took their leave. After such a farce, Xiaoqin was severely injured and was no longer fit to speak about the Tao. However, this farce allowed everyone to truly witness Xiaoqin's strength. Before the primes left, they all more or less left behind their treasured medicinal pills for Xiaoqin, expressing their concern and taking sides. However, Xiaoqin was no longer in the mood to think about these minor matters. Emperor Forsaken's 3 palm strikes showed him the difference between himself and a prime. This was especially so for the final saber strike. Xiaoqin reversed time and space, traveling to the past. In the end, this peak saber strike only left a tiny saber mark on Emperor Forsaken's face. Thinking about it, Xiaochen felt really sad. When he passed through, his body would be damaged. However, the result of summoning him back was a little unworthy of him. After the few Supremes checked Xiaochen's injuries one after another, and found that there were no fatal injuries, they took their leave. Given Xiaochen's current cultivation, as long as it was not a fatal injury, he could recover quickly with the aid of miraculous medicinal pills and his physical body. There was no need to worry too much. All the primes had left. Only Ying Zongtian remained. Big brother Ying, there is no need to worry. I will recover after recuperating for a while. Xiaochen answered as he stood up. Ying Zongtian smiled and said, Are you chasing me away? Originally, I came here intending to give you something. Now it looks like I'll keep it for myself. What is it? Xiaochen could not help asking out of curiosity. The Martial God Medallion. The Martial God Medallion that the Thunder King gave me. It allows me to control the entire Bushan Palace, Ying Zongtian said, enunciating every word with a serious expression. When Xiaochen heard that, he was stunned. The Dragon's Gate elders beside him were startled as well. Clearly, they had not expected Ying Zongtian to hand the Martial God Medallion to Xiaochen. There is no need to worry. I already changed my mind. You are already under enough pressure. I'll give you some more pressure. If it's really not good, you should just focus on recuperating. I really didn't expect that Big Brother would think so highly of me, Xiaochen said with a wry smile. But I really don't have the heart to take charge of Bushan Palace. But if Bushan Palace needs me, I will be the first to rush over. Ying Zongtian revealed a gratified expression. He nodded and said, You must have gained a lot from the battle with Emperor Forsaken. I will remain on Heavenly Star Island for this period of time. If you need anything, you can ask me anytime. Xiaochen's eyes lit up and a look of joy appeared on his face. Thank you, Big Brother Ying. After I recover from my injuries, I will definitely seek your guidance. Haha, alright, I'll be waiting. Ying Zongtian laughed and agreed without hesitation. Exchanging blows with the current Xiaochen was exactly what he wanted. 3 days later, at the summit of the Dragon's Gates mountain, Xiaochen stood alone. Xiaochen managed to receive 3 palm strikes from Emperor Forsaken, even forcing the other party to make an oath. To others, this was an incredible matter, ruthlessly dampening Emperor Forsaken's spirit. However, to Xiaochen, it was indescribable bitterness in his heart. Xiaochen was very clear on the difference between him and Emperor Forsaken. Simply put, it was cultivation. The other party's cultivation was much higher than his. However, Xiaochen's cultivation remained stagnant, with no room for improvement. As long as the Emperor's door of an emperor did not open, Xiaochen's cultivation could not improve. Xiaochen stood up and looked at the clouds around the summit. He muttered to himself, Could it be that my cultivation will remain stagnant for the rest of my life, unable to improve? That was truly tragic. If his cultivation did not improve, he would not be a match for Emperor Forsaken even if he had another 100 years. That day, when he received the second palm from Emperor Forsaken, he already understood. His martial arts skills were no weaker than the other parties, and with sufficient cultivation he could easily receive the attack. However, it was a pity that the other party used brute force to overcome his technique. No matter how he struggled, he was unable to dodge the palm strike. As for being able to receive the third palm strike, it was a complete fluke. At the last moment, the power of the Great Path burst forth with full force. Only then did he manage to break through the space and time in front of Emperor Forsaken. If he hadn't disrupted the other party's rhythm, the might of the third palm strike would have definitely killed him. Whoosh! An air-piercing sound rang out, and a person suddenly appeared beside him. Xiaochen didn't need to guess to know who this person was. Ying Zongtian was the only one who could come to his side without making a sound and arouse his vigilance. Little brother Xiaochen, what's wrong? Are you still vexed about that battle? Ying Zongtian said consolingly as he patted Xiaochen's shoulder with a smile on his face. Xiaochen nodded and sighed softly. I feel like I've reached a bottleneck. Furthermore, I can't see any hope of defeating Emperor Forsaken. Ying Zongtian was not surprised. Many of the Nine Heaven Emperor Wu of the Kunlun realm would end up like Xiaochun if they could not break through to Prime. There was clearly a path ahead, but it was blocked. Their cultivation stopped, unable to advance. No matter how hard they tried, they could not advance. It was not because of themselves but because there were no more paths in the Kunlun realm. Even if one was one of those 1 in 10,000 cultivators, they would soon reach a bottleneck after advancing to Prime. This was the sorrow of all the cultivators of the Kunlun realm. This was an indescribable sorrow for all the cultivators born in the abandoned land. Now you should understand what I said to you back then, right? Ing Zongtian sighed as he withdrew his smile. Back then, when Ing Zongtian learned of Xiaochun's identity, he immediately chose to stand behind Xiaochun. It was because Ing Zongtian thought highly of Xiaochun and believed that he could surpass Prime. At that time, Ing Zongtian was just like Xiaochun now, sad and helpless. I understand. Big Brother's words from back then are still fresh in my memory. Might I ask the heavens if there is a martial god after Prime? When Xiaochun recalled the past, he felt somewhat rueful. Unexpectedly, in a few short years, he encountered the same problem as Ing Zongtian. Ing Zongtian revealed a grave expression on his handsome face. He sighed softly. Martial god? That is so far away. Perhaps this martial god is just our imagination, looking at the sky from the bottom of a well, thinking that the world is only so big. Big Brothering, why the need to be so pessimistic? Xiaochun consoled. Ing Zongtian smiled and said, let's not talk about this for now. Your injuries should have healed by now, right? I came here today to tell you that Emperor Forsaken is not as difficult to defeat as you think. The heaven-abandoning deity sovereign is not as hard to defeat as you imagine him to be. In reality, I do not wish for you to make him your target at all. Xiaochun revealed a shocked expression. This was unexpected. Why? In that battle 3 days ago, you felt that you were in a sorry state. Actually, he was in an even worse state. He is just a pitiful worm. So what if he is the strongest person of the Kunlun realm? Once he leaves this abandoned land, he is nothing. Ing Zongtian revealed a mocking expression as he continued. Don't set him as your target. He is just a coward who does not even dare to take the Kunlun road. The gap between you and him is not as big as you think. Xiaochun smiled bitterly and said, however, right now, I cannot improve my cultivation at all. Ing Zongtian interrupted Xiaochun and asked, how many strands of primordial energy do you think I have? Rumor has it that a prime has more than 10,000 strands of primordial energy. Ing Zongtian guffawed when he heard this. Nonsense. If I really have that many, do you think this body of mine can withstand it? When Xiaochun heard this, he was stunned. He had not considered this question before. How strong would a physical body be if there was so much primordial energy gathered in one's body? Let me tell you, like you, a prime only has 1,000 strands of primordial energy. Ing Zongtian continued. Emperor Wu of the 9 heavens only has 900 strands of primordial energy. However, you have 1,000 strands. The moment you jumped off the Emperor's road, the shackles on your body were already broken. Xiaochun asked in confusion. In that case, why do I feel that the gap between my strength and Emperor Forsaken's has not changed? Could it be my misconception? It is not a misconception. It is real. Your state of cycle can support primordial energy. The great Tao that you comprehended can support primordial energy as well, increasing its might. Ing Zongtian crossed his arms and looked at Xiaochun. However, have you ever considered that Emperor Forsaken's power of faith and will of holy light can also support primordial energy? When Xiaochun heard this, he felt like he had been enlightened. Chapter 1486. Xiaochun now understood. The gap between him and Emperor Forsaken was not in cultivation, but in accumulations. The other party's cultivation of the power of faith and the will of holy light had already reached the limits. Every aspect had reached a level where they could no longer be improved. As for Xiaochun's state of cycle and great Tao energy, he only scratched the surface. The might of his primordial energy could not compare to the other party's power of faith and the will of holy light. You understand now, right? The gap between you and Emperor Forsaken is not large. Defeating him is not difficult. However, do not make him your target. Your target should be set further. When Ying Zongtian saw the expression on Xiao Chen's face, he revealed a smile, knowing that Xiao Chen already understood. Actually, even if Xiao Chen knew, it would not solve much of the problem. The main thing was not to leave a shadow in Xiao Chen's heart. If a shadow was left behind and became a knot in Xiao Chen's heart, then it would truly be over. Ying Zongtian smiled and said, "During this period, I will remain on this mountain. If you have anything you do not understand, you can ask me for guidance at any time." Xiao Chen performed a cupped fist salute and said, "Many thanks, big brother." "You are welcome." Ying Zongtian smiled faintly. Then his figure flashed, vanishing from where he was. After understanding the problem, Xiao Chen now had a direction to work on. Great Tao energy and the state of cycle were rather difficult to improve. Hence, Xiao Chen had to focus on other aspects that were easier to cultivate. Then he would cultivate them to the peak. That way, he would be able to increase the might of his primordial energy as well. With the help of the Thunder Immortal Ancestor, the innate Thunder Crystal had already reached its peak. Xiao Chen even comprehended the Thunder Domain. Raising it further would be very difficult. Only the Will of Ice remained at small perfection, with a lot of room for improvement. Xiao Chen entered the Saber Sovereign Medallion, and did his best to cultivate on the Ice Jade Bed in Panhuang Hall. This Ice Jade Bed had the same effect as the Lightning Pool, allowing one to quickly cultivate a certain will. Similarly, the pain of the cold was no less than the Lightning Pool. Boundless cold energy from the Ice Jade Bed seeped into Xiao Chen's body. The Will of Ice in Xiao Chen's Sea of Consciousness greedily absorbed this energy, quickly strengthening itself. Xiao Chen's body shivered from the cold. He felt like his bones were completely frozen. For the first time, he lasted for half a day before he stopped. However, the second time, Xiao Chen persisted for a week. By the time he came out, he had already become a popsicle. Kacha. The instant he shattered the ice, his bones made cracking sounds, almost shattering. That feeling was like being bitten by 10,000 insects. After tasting it once, he did not want to try it a second time. However, Xiao Chen still had to continue. He had only cultivated the Will of Ice to great perfection, not even to peak consummation. He was still far from cultivating the innate Lightning Crystal, so he could not afford to give up on it. Just like that, Xiao Chen persisted in cultivating in the Saber Sovereign Medallion for 2 months. When he came out, he had finally cultivated the Will of Ice to peak consummation. Just like that, Xiao Chen persisted in cultivating in the Saber Sovereign Medallion for 2 months. When he came out, he had finally cultivated the Will of Ice to peak consummation. With a casual wave, the cold chi merged with the primordial energy and shot into the air. Space immediately froze. In the next moment, it shattered into countless pieces. Not bad. You comprehended it rather quickly. The destructive power of your primordial energy has improved by 10% compared to 2 months ago. Ying Zongtian seemed to have been there all along. When he saw Xiao Chen open his eyes, he immediately came out. 10%. With his cultivation at a standstill, Xiao Chen was able to raise the might of his primordial energy by 10% in 2 months. This far surpassed Xiao Chen's expectations. Xiao Chen stood up and looked at Ying Zongtian. A fighting spirit appeared in his eyes. "Big brother, I would like to seek advice from you." "Ha! I have been waiting for you to say that for a long time." Ying Zongtian's fighting spirit blazed as well. He laughed boldly and said, "Remember to use your full power and not hold back." "I will definitely not hold back." Of course. When facing Ying Zongtian, Xiao Chen had no choice but to use his full power. Otherwise, he might end up getting beaten up. Whoosh! A light flashed and Xiao Chen made the first move. Great Tao energy, innate Thunder Crystal, Will of Ice, and the state of cycle infused his primordial energy at the same time. Xiao Chen casually threw a palm strike. Ying Zongtian smiled faintly, and the light of the sun burst forth behind him as he countered with a palm strike as well. Boom! The two palms clashed. The two's clothes fluttered wildly, and their long hair fluttered. Unexpectedly, they were evenly matched. The power of this palm strike swept away all the clouds in the sky. When one looked up, one could see the starry sky. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The two quickly exchanged moves, flying higher and higher. Soon, they broke through the barrier of the sky and arrived among the stars in the universe. After 100 moves, the two each stood on an asteroid and faced each other from a distance. Big brother, this is the end of the probing. Receive my saber strike. Void-breaking stance. The 7 deadly sins merged into one. As Xiao Chun held his divine weapon, he instantly executed the first move of the flawless saber technique. A light flashed in the starry heavens, and Xiao Chun vanished. In the next moment, light burst forth. A saber light appeared in front of Ying Zongtian. Ying Zongtian smiled faintly, and a beam of light shot out from his palm. Then a sun appeared. With a wave of his hand, Xiao Chun charged forward. Boom! This palm strike directly knocked back the void-breaking stance in the starry heavens. Xiao Chun spun in the air and swung his saber in a reverse grip, executing the flawless saber technique's second move, the dragon subduing stance. Saber light flashed as the flawless saber technique executed consecutively. When Ying Zongtian received the fifth move, he found it somewhat difficult. Receive my palm strike as well. Light of the sun. Ying Zongtian switched from defense to offense. He sent out a palm strike, and his body released a light comparable to the sun, looking incredibly dazzling in the starry heavens. Fireballs as bright as the sun flew out of Ying Zongtian's palm, surging towards Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun's heart sank. He had seen Ying Zongtian use this move on the heaven-punishing corpse god before. It was incredibly horrifying, one of Ying Zongtian's killing moves. Flawless saber technique, heaven-swallowing stance. Xiao Chun executed the strongest move of the flawless saber technique. As he held gluttony, he materialized the flawless saber technique's ultimate Tao, death. The fusion of gluttony and the death throne represented the end and silence. This was especially so for the materialized heaven-swallowing stance, which could swallow up all martial techniques. When the saber light landed, a huge void beast appeared behind Xiao Chun. Then it opened its mouth and swallowed up all the suns. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The saber trembled continuously. The energy of the 1,000 suns made the heaven-swallowing stance hard to digest. Xiao Chun found it hard to keep his grip on the saber. It looked like it would crumble at any moment. Whoosh! A light flashed, and Ying Zongtian appeared before Xiao Chun. Then he threw a palm strike and knocked away the divine weapon in Xiao Chun's hand. A huge explosion rang out as 1,000 suns exploded in the starry sky, blasting a small star into nothingness. You lost. Ying Zongtian smiled faintly and stopped moving, no longer attacking. This battle had been very enjoyable. However, in the end Xiao Chun had indeed lost. Xiao Chun's primordial energy was already no weaker than Ying Zongtian's. However, he could not maintain it for long. First, he drained his great Tao energy, then his state of cycle. Only the innate thunder crystal and the will of ice remained to support his primordial energy. With such energy, when Xiao Chun executed the final move of the flawless saber technique, he could not break Ying Zongtian's light of the sun. If not for Ying Zongtian reacting quickly and knocking away the divine weapon, Xiao Chun would have been injured by the explosion. Although I lost this battle, I benefited greatly. Big brothering, many thanks, Xiao Chun said sincerely. Ying Zongtian smiled faintly and said, We are family. There is no need to be so polite. When the two returned to Heavenly Star Island, they discovered that Emo Chun had already been waiting for them at the summit of the Dragon's Gate. Emo Chun, you waited for me for so long. Is something the matter? Xiao Chun asked. Emo Chun smiled faintly and said, I still remember what Big Brother Xiao said the last time. In the past few days, I searched through ancient texts and visited many holy lands to borrow information. Finally, I know what can eliminate the sin in Meteor Trail City. What is it? Xiao Chun asked quickly, rejoicing in his heart. When Ying Zongtian heard that, he felt excited as well. He smiled and said, Miss Mo, you are truly incredible. Even I am helpless against such a difficult problem. Emo Chun smiled humbly and said, There is a kind of flame in the world that can burn everything, even sin. Are you talking about the heavenly flame? Ying Zongtian asked. Emo Chun nodded and said, Yes, it is. However, this heavenly flame has not appeared for 10,000 years already. I do not know where to find it. Ing Zongtian frowned and said, This is difficult. The heavenly flame disappeared long ago. No one knows where it is. I know. Xiaochen revealed a complicated expression. The moment he said that, Emo Chen and Ing Zongtian felt shocked. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.